Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to a very hastily arranged, highly impromptu, last moment live stream hosted by yours truly, the Front Porch Conservative. I am sometimes known as the beau in the chapeau. I am sometimes called the fine fella in the fedora. Occasionally, I'm referred to as the wise guy in the wide brim, and oftentimes I am known as the common man with common sense. Welcome to this live stream. We're going to be covering former President Donald Trump's speech to the National Religious Broadcasters Convention that's taking place tonight in Nashville, Tennessee at the Opryland Hotel and Convention Center. And we are on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we are on Twitter. So please stop by, tell your friends. We're just basically waiting for the live stream to go up and for President Trump to arrive. So looking forward to it with everybody. And again, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm known as the Front Porch Conservative. Thank you for stopping by. As I say, this one was kind of planned last second, last minute, that sort of thing. So we'll see what happens here. Just basically waiting for the live stream to come up and go. So if you're out there on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitter, Gab, Gettr, Truth Social, wherever you are, send out the link. Tell your friends, come on in. We're just basically waiting for them to go up on the live stream, and we will cover President Trump's remarks. So it's good to have all of you here tonight. It's a little rainy where I am right now, so glad you're with us. And again, thanks for stopping by. If you're not familiar with me, again, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm known in social media as the Front Porch Conservative. I've got channels on YouTube, on Rumble, and many other places I can post. So like I say, we're just basically waiting for the stream to come up. I am checking on some other things right now, so give me just 1 second here, folks. Anyway, if you're out there, drop a comment in chat. Let me know who you are. Let's see who we're hanging out with this evening. I know we got folks over on Rumble. We got folks on YouTube. At least I know you're lurking, daggone you, you sneaky people. Anyway, we're just basically waiting for Right Side Broadcasting Network to start the live stream, and we will see what happens here. So give me 1 second, folks. I think we're getting closer. Let me get it pulled back up. We're just basically waiting for the live stream to start. Usually with President Trump, there's a certain amount of, shall we say, he's on Trump time. But that gives us a chance to talk, and we'll hang out together for a little while. It has been an absolutely crazy week, as always, for news. And we will be covering a lot of different things this Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. I do another live stream known as Front Porch Brunch, where we cover items in the news from the previous week in a very relaxed, chilled sort of manner. So if you're not familiar with that, come hang out with us this Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. As a special bonus, we will also be live stream covering President Trump's remarks at CPAC that is taking place currently right now in Washington, D.C., one of the biggest gathering of conservatives around the country and sometimes around the world. Good evening, Chris Rowland. Glad to have you here, sir. Spread the word. Send out the link. Thank you, brother, for stopping by. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're just basically waiting for this live stream to come up and get started. I thought this one would be a really good occasion to hear the president's remarks, as it's been for quite going on now 5 decades that evangelical Christians have served as one of the cornerstones of the Republican coalition. And I thought it might be interesting to hear what he's got to say to this very important voting bloc. And, may not be much, may not be a lot, but we'll cover it. We'll see what happens. Over on Rumble, we got John McGarvey. Hello, John. How you doing? It's good to hear from you, sir. As I say, as we're just waiting around, and like I said, I did this one very last minute, and I apologize to all of you because normally I don't like doing that. But it kind of hit me this day. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. What have we got to lose? So, please send out a tweet, send out a Gettr, send out a Truth Social, send out a Gab, wherever. Send it out on Facebook. There's a place I need to start utilizing much more than I do. So yeah, send out messages to your friends. Tell them to come on in and hang out with us. Let's just get the biggest crowd in here we possibly can. So, there's a lot of different places. I don't know how many cable news networks are going to be covering the president's remarks tonight. Newsmax might do it. Fox probably won't. But yeah, by all means, let's get as many people in here as we can. Let's let them see what's going on, hear what's going on. And like I say, we're just basically waiting for President Trump to make his entrance, and we'll go from there. So we are on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we are on Twitter. And as I said, this coming Saturday morning, we will do our live. Hang on. See what we got. Okay, I'm going to back off a little bit, let them talk. Okay, hang on. John, I just saw your message. Let me see what I can do here. Hang on a second. Working on it. Hang on, gang. Okay, tell me if this is working.
What I'm trying to say here at CPAC.
Yes, absolutely. And they always draw in a crowd. Just when I was walking in for this pre show coverage, Tulsi Gabbard was a few booths down, and the crowd was surrounded by her. And it's funny watching these Republicans. Matt Gaetz will be here tomorrow, always draws a crowd. Byron Donalds was here earlier, he draws a crowd. So whenever they're walking by the crowd, you follow the crowd and you know someone's in front of them, and it's usually one of these state reps or senators or someone who has served this great country. So, yes, absolutely. We've had a lot of great speakers today here at CPAC, a lot of great guests who have stopped by our booth as well. If you missed any of our coverage today, that's okay. We have you covered on Rumble as well as our social media sites. You can find everything there on our website, rsbnetwork.com. I spoke to Brian several. Talked to Mercedes Schlapp earlier. Talked to Colton Furlow earlier. Both with CPAC. Both talked about how important this organization is, but also with it being the first day, how well the first day went, and they feel like it went very smoothly, no hiccups going into it. They spend months and months planning this big convention because it is a large convention where everyone comes together. Your top name Republicans from across the country, even the world, like you just mentioned. Yeah. And so it takes them months, day in and day out, to plan these events. And so going in, like any event that you plan, if you're an event planner, you know how this is. It's those last minute details that you have to make sure run smoothly. And they said for the first day, it's run very well. So they're excited about how today went, and they're excited for the next couple of days. Also, like you just mentioned, Brian, it is Thursday. People have to work. So we're expecting a larger crowd heading into the weekend. Of course, tomorrow's Friday, so we'll have a large crowd then. And then President Trump always brings the crowd. With him speaking earlier, like you said, at 7 o'clock is usually when he closes out the CPAC conventions. This year it's earlier because it's the South Carolina primary on Saturday. So he's heading to the great state of South Carolina on Saturday evening, where you'll be. We're expecting people to start lining up in the overnight hours to form that line to get in on Saturday.
Yeah. And I'm gonna pause out of their audio for just a second. Keep them going. I do want to mention something. Speaking of the South Carolina primary, we are going to be doing live stream coverage on my channel of the results of the South Carolina primary. And please I'm spreading the word now. I've already got thumbnails created and everything else. So please spread the word around that we will be covering the South Carolina primary results this Saturday night starting at 6:30. The polls will close at 7. Myself, Ruben Christopher Haynes, Brentley from the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast. I've also sent out invites to Christian Watson, also to Chad Manley, and to my good buddy, Flagrant Triggers. So hopefully we're going to have a big posse of folks talking about the results, politics in general, things that are going on. And we'll be doing all that this Saturday night at 6:30. But yeah, I mean, to go over some of the things that they've talked about already, it's going to be a interesting weekend. You've got CPAC going on in D.C. You've got the NRB going on in Nashville. And the NRB is now celebrating its 80th year of gathering. This is a convention that brings all kinds of different people from all across the country together, national religious broadcasters, Christian radio stations, pastors of various churches, etc. And it's a very old gathering. It's a very old gathering indeed. So it's something that conservative politicians have usually made it a point to make a stop at, especially if they are running for president. And, Donald Trump is doing just that again. So we'll see what happens. So while we're waiting around, let's see what kind of comments we've got. Over on Rumble, we've got Night Guardian 34. Nobody in South Carolina wants Nikki Haley to represent us. I've heard that said from a lot of different people. And you know what? I will say this. I know that there are folks who are watching my channel who are going to be supporting Nikki Haley. And my thought in the matter is, you know what? Anybody can vote for whoever they want. I'm not going to, any criticisms that I have are not directed at supporters of any one candidate over another. If someone wants to support Ron DeSantis when he was running, fine. If someone wants to support Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, their choice. My criticisms now are more or less directed at Nikki on the grounds that, frankly, I'm watching her campaign. I'm watching the polling, and I don't know where she goes after South Carolina to think that she's going to win any of these upcoming states. The polling for her is just atrocious after South Carolina. Frankly, the best shot she had may have been New Hampshire, and she didn't do it there. So, but yeah, we're just basically waiting for President Trump to arrive in Nashville, Tennessee to address the National Religious Broadcasters Convention. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. Also on Rumble, we got John McGarvey says, I will after I vote Trump in the South Carolina primary. Talking about attending with us Saturday night. John, you go do your thing. Yeah, vote your conscience. John, yeah, absolutely. Vote your conscience. You know, uh, as I say, I have not a complaint with anybody out there who wants to support whatever candidate they may wish. I may not agree with their choice, but I respect their right to do it. So, yeah, we're just basically waiting for President Trump, and we'll just kind of hang out together and talk. And, like I say, it's just a very impromptu live stream. So spread the word, tell people that we're here, let them know. And, we'll keep on trucking and doing our thing while we wait for the president to arrive. So that's where we're at in all of this. And okay, here we go. That's better. So yeah, that's what we be doing. So send out a Twitter, send out a Gab, send out a Truth Social, send out on Facebook, wherever. Just take that link and just spread it on around. Tell everybody that we're here. We're just basically waiting for the president to arrive. And you know me, I've never been at a loss for being able to not fill the spaces, so to speak, with conversation. Night Guardian on Rumble says, I'm curious where she is getting all the campaign funding. That's a good question. And in the not too distant future, she's going to have to file a Federal Election Commission financial statement. I'll be very curious to see where she's getting money. Now, some people have conjectured, and again, I have no proof of it, that, there are Democrats and never Trumpers who are, still pumping money into her campaign to try and keep it going. Again, I can't prove that. I haven't seen any financial statements to say one way or the other, but we'll see what happens. So anyway, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on Twitter. If you are not a subscriber to my channel, please do so. We've got a whole bunch of good people hanging out with us already. It's the interesting thing about my audience. I've got conversationalists and I've got lurkers. So we're just basically waiting for this party to get started. Come on, what's going on here? Okay, I think we're live again. I'm trying to set this so that yeah, okay, we've got it back live now. So yeah, that's where we be. John McGarvey says she's getting her money from the $350 billion slush fund that John Podesta. Oh Lord, and no idea what Podesta's doing. No idea. But anyway, we're just kind of hanging out together, just basically waiting for the president to arrive and begin his remarks. And looks like they've got a pretty big crowd watching on Rumble already. Let me pop out for a second and see if I can get this thing straightened up a little bit. That thing's starting to lag a little, which I do not like. So give me 1 second here, folks. I'm trying to see if I can make this a little bit better for everybody. Okay, that's got it back. Yeah, I've still got the volume cut out on it. Yeah, we're just basically waiting for the president. If you're watching this on screen, basically what you're seeing is there are a couple of broadcasters for RSBN. They are currently at CPAC in Washington, D.C. CPAC is going concurrently with the Religious Broadcasters Convention that's happening in Nashville. So this is a pretty big weekend for conservative folk. There's a lot of good people gathering in D.C. of various political stripes on the right side of the political spectrum. And President Trump's going to be speaking in Nashville tonight. He will then be speaking Saturday at noon, which, by the way, again, we are going to cover that speech as part of my normal Saturday morning live stream called Front Porch Brunch, which is normally our review of the news, which we will be reviewing items in the news, so don't worry about that. But since the president's scheduled to speak at or near the time that I might otherwise be wrapping up Front Porch Brunch, I just thought we'd go ahead and tack it on, and a nice way to let people be able to do both things at the same time, as opposed to two separate live streams. Just put it all together, which makes more sense to me. But anyway, so while we're waiting around, what's everybody want to talk about? What's on everybody's mind right now? It's been a crazy week for me. I've had my good buddy Mike Harlow invited me on his channel the other day for a live stream where I'm not sure if we solved any of the world's problems, but we definitely had a whole lot of fun talking to each other. And that was cool. Also, things that are items in the news. President Biden has forgiven about $100 billion worth of student loan debt in violation, it appears, of a Supreme Court rule that says he's not allowed to do that. So that's going to be real interesting in the days and weeks ahead. I've got a bad feeling he's trying to get his hands on the youth vote. Now, I'm not so sure that's really going to do him all that much good, because the way that they structured the loan forgiveness is such that it's very narrowly tailored. And, someone on Twitter pointed it out far better than I could. Well, those folks are already supporting Biden anyway. How much more is he going to get in the way of new votes out of it? The other issue is, especially with the youth vote, it seems to me, and y'all can disagree with me on Rumble or on YouTube if you want to, but it seems to me that young people, and when I say young people, I'm talking about anywhere 18 to 35, while student loans are important, or how to deal with them are important, the bigger issue is, how am I going to do I have a job? The internet basically crashing today is currently the hustle and the bustle. Yeah, that's true, John. I absolutely agree with that. But yeah, going back to my point about the youth vote, whatever age range you want to put on that, the great concern is, the economy and jobs, as it more often than not is in an election, but this year especially, because it's compounded with the problems with inflation. So I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I don't think what Biden is doing on the student loan forgiveness is right at all. But on the other hand, I don't know how much it's helping him politically, because people are probably looking at that saying, okay, you forgave my student loans, but am I going to have a job? And if I do have a job, is the inflation really going to allow me any money after I have to pay my bills? So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, if you guys have got thoughts on that story, drop a comment in chat, be it on Rumble, be it on YouTube, wherever you may be. And thank you guys for hanging out with me. Like I say, this one's a very impromptu live stream that I organized at the last second. So I'm hoping that when the president's speaking, we get a big number of people in here. Over on YouTube, Dave H asks, VP choices. If Trump doesn't pick Vivek, I'll be disappointed. The only others that won't derail me are Tucker, Sanders, Donalds, or Stefanik. All others, I'll be upset. That's a really good topic to bring up, Dave, and I'm glad you did. So Trump gives this town hall with Laura Ingraham, and I haven't watched it myself yet, but the subject of vice presidential choices came up. And the names that got floated, some of them I'd understand. I know Vivek was in the mix, but somehow DeSantis's name came up, and I don't think it was Trump that brought it up. I think it was someone who dropped the names. I mean, I'll just go ahead and give you while we're waiting for this live stream to start with President Trump's remarks at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention. My thought in the matter is this. This choice for vice president, to me, is more important than normal. And here's why I'm saying that. And y'all can feel free to disagree with me on this. Donald Trump, if he is reelected, is going to do everything he can in the 4 years he's got to try to affect the changes he thinks needs to happen to put the country back to where it was pre-COVID, and also get the country in good shape for the long run. However, two things. Number one, time is not on his side. He's only got one more term. The other issue is this. Even if he had a quasi-friendly opposition in the Democrats and certain members of the establishment Republican wing of the party, they would just try to wait him out, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to throw up as many roadblocks as they possibly can starting on January 20, 2025, and they will do everything in their power to slow him down to make sure he cannot get the kind of changes made he wants to make. Therefore, with that in mind, I say, my postulation here, that the choice of vice president is going to be critical. And here's why I say that. We could be, if he picks the right person, he could be setting up a 12-year run of Republican governance, much like what Reagan and Bush were from 1981 to 1993. Okay. And for 8 years, you had conservative governance under Reagan, and you had something like that, and I'm using that very generously. You had something like that under Poppy Bush. This situation could be the reverse. This time you could have conservative governance under Trump, and you could conceivably have 8 years of really conservative governance, depending on who he picks as the VP. Now, this theory of mine is dependent upon a bunch of assumptions. Number one, that Trump picks a conservative populist like a Vivek Ramaswamy, a J.D. Vance, others, Josh Hawley, whoever it may be, and that not only in picking them, they choose to run for president themselves, and they were to succeed him to the presidency in 2028. So I understand my theory is built on some really big assumptions here, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's what actually goes down here. Trump wins. He takes someone like a Vivek Ramaswamy, a J.D. Vance, a Josh Hawley, somebody that's got that young, conservative, populist sort of flavor to them. And that person runs in 2028 and wins. Then at that point, you've got a really good chance to do a lot of good for the country long term and shore up the foundations. Now, like I say, I understand the argument for picking some of the people whose names are being thrown around, like a Tim Scott or a Elise Stefanik or whomever. But to me, it's got to be somebody of the ilk of Ramaswamy, Vance, Donalds, somebody like that. It really does. It's got to be somebody. It's got to be a choice that's big and bold that could serve as the bridge between Trump's brand of America First, MAGA, and what it will be in the future after he is off the political scene. So, yeah, Dave, I absolutely agree with you. This one's going to be huge, absolutely huge. Let's see what everybody's saying over on Rumble as we're waiting for this live stream to start. John McGarvey says, Ben Carson, mark my words, that's who's getting the pick. Also says, Tulsi Gabbard was just defending Trump and gave Nikki a smackdown at CPAC. Ooh, I almost wish I'm going to go back and watch that speech. Thanks, John. Let me jot myself a note here. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting people. Forced mommies. Forced mommy is dolling herself up. Well, now, girl, if you're going to go to all that trouble to look that good, you let me know. I'll throw you a link and we can hang out together watching this thing. As long as Forrest Daddy ain't going to get mad at me, But you know how I am. I'm a big old flirt. And where you're concerned, I will flirt my butt off where you're concerned. Sorry, folks. A guy's got to do what a guy's got to do while you're waiting for a live stream to start. Yes, Mommy, do not worry about it, Jessica. We're here. We love you. You take your time, do what you got to do. So, Jessica says, yes, you are a very ethical and fun flirt. That's right. That's right. See, gentlemen can be fun and flirty, and so long as everybody understands the boundaries, that's cool. And Jessica is just that cool of a lady that she gets it. You know, I know she got. Hang on. Looks like we have things going on here. We have some. Maybe they're singing the national anthem. Let's check in on this. See what we got.
You see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket red glare, the bombs were singing, they proved through the night that our flag was still there. Those leaders cast our spangled
Okay, I don't care who you are. That never gets old. Whew. I don't know who those boys are, but by George, they can absolutely sing. Absolutely. Oh, goodness. Yeah, it looks like festivities are getting started at the NRB, so we're just basically waiting for President Trump to come on. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome in. We are basically waiting for President Trump to arrive. John McGarvey says, I'd tell you to stand up, but we all know YouTubers don't wear pants. Oh, my God. John, I will have you know what? Blue jeans. That's right. Blue jeans. Yep. You mean YouTubers don't wear pants? How dare you, sir? Hideous, I say, hideous. What a slanderous thing to say about people who do live streams. I tell you the truth. Ugh, awful, just awful. How dare you? John's like, wow. Well, there you go. That's what you get. Said I don't wear pants. How dare you, sir? So, yeah. So let's see. We're all hanging out on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. Got a good little crowd going so far. Yeah, send out the tweet. Send out a Gettr. Send out a Gab. Send out a Facebook message. Tell your mothers, your brothers, your lovers, your sisters, and your misters to hit that link and get in here. So like I say, we're just waiting on President Trump to arrive, and they're just getting some festivities started down in Tennessee. And we'll see what the president has got to say. This, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the NRB's convention is now in its 80th year, and it brings together all kinds of people from around the country, pastors, religious broadcasters, radio station owners, etc. And it's a gathering of like-minded folk, and they come together to talk. So we'll see what President Trump has to say. And like I said, while that's going on, Saturday, two things are happening. Number one, well, actually three. 10:30 a.m. Eastern is Front Porch Brunch. And as part of what I'm normally doing on Saturday, we're going to cover President Trump's speech at CPAC in Washington, D.C. He's scheduled to speak anywhere between 12 and 12:30. Well, that's normally about the time I'm wrapping up Front Porch Brunch. So we're going to make it a combined thing and just hang out together and watch the speech. Then come back Saturday night at 6:30 Eastern. Some good buddies of mine and I, Ruben Christopher Haynes, Brent Lee from the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast, and several others, depending on who is able to show up, we will be covering the results of the South Carolina primary. So that's going to start at 6:30 Eastern. And, we'll be doing all kinds of stuff like this. If you're not familiar with my content, I'm going to be doing a lot of political stuff this year. So there's going to be lots of opportunities to hang out. Looks like we have another speaker coming to the podium. So we'll take a listen in, just see who this gentleman is and what might be going on. He might be introducing the president. So hang on, folks. Let's see what this is.
Take your seat now. Tonight's program will echo a time-honored tradition at NRB. Throughout its history, NRB has hosted engagements with presidents and presidential candidates. In this critical year in the life of our nation, we are proud to welcome you tonight to the 2024 NRB Presidential Forum. NRB is a 501c3 organization and neither supports nor opposes candidates for public office. We invited all eligible candidates from both parties to participate in the Presidential Forum.
I wonder if Biden is going to be speaking.
While we look forward from hearing from the perspectives that will be shared on stage tonight, no statement made by a sponsor or participant of the NRB Presidential Forum should be understood as a position of NRB. As we do here, let's start everything in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for your grace and mercy in our lives. Lord, we ask that as we hear tonight of those who would be prospective leaders of our country, Lord, that you would give us wisdom, Lord, that you would give us mercy, and Lord, most of all, that you would raise up leaders that would lead this country in a godly fashion for the glory of God and for the proclamation of the gospel. We pray it in Christ's name, amen.
Y'all didn't think I had anything under the tab.
All right, so here's a preview of what to expect as we move through tonight's program. We will hear a word from each of our sponsors, Salem Media Group, Heritage Action for America, and Pray.com, three impactful organizations that have partnered with us to present this 2024 NRB Presidential Forum. Then we will hear remarks from syndicated radio host Hugh Hewitt of Salem Media Group and Dr. Kevin Roberts, president of Heritage Action for America. And finally, we will hear from the 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. As NRB celebrates its 80th anniversary, it has presented an occasion for us to look back at our providential history. NRB was not born out of a struggle with the media or with the government, but opposition from the religious community. At the time of NRB's founding, religious radio broadcasters were faced with being taken off the air despite having reached millions of people. The Federal Council of Churches lobbied.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drop the volume on that. Looks like it's going to be a little bit before the president's able to speak, so it gives us a chance to sit around and talk for a while. So we're glad to have you here. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're doing a very impromptu live stream tonight of President Trump's remarks at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention, which is being held in Nashville, Tennessee. This is the 80th year that the NRB has gathered together. And we're just kind of hanging out and talking about whatever's on everybody's mind. We've got over on Rumble, we've got folks like, John McGarvey, we got Forrest Mommy, we've got who else is hanging out over there? Oh, the joys and aggravations of using two different computers. Night Guardians hanging out over there. Glad y'all are chatting us up and chatting with us. So, and for all y'all that are lurkers over there, we love you. Don't worry. We're glad to have you. And you can say things, but I promise we don't bite. Over on YouTube, we've got Dave H is hanging out with us. Robert Lowry's hanging out with us. Chris Rowland's hanging out with us. So thank all of you guys for coming here tonight. So, if you got friends and maybe they're looking for a place to hang out, watch good content, good live stream, and very entertaining hosts, I say so humbly, then yeah, send them a tweet, send them a Gettr, send them a Gab, send them a Truth Social, send them a Facebook link, whatever. Blast out that link for the YouTube and Rumble, and let's just get people in here and hang out together. So sounds like they're going to have some remarks from sponsors, maybe one or two remarks otherwise, and then President Trump will be on. So, Jessica, darling, if you're brushing your hair and putting on your makeup and you want to stop by for a conversation, well, I'll pour you a glass of water and we can chat it up, as it were. Because that's just the kind of guy I am. But anyway, yeah, we're hanging out together. And normally I co-host this with other people. I would have normally sent them the link, but where this was so last minute and so impromptu on my part, I just didn't feel like that was fair. But yeah, we're hanging out together and we're just basically talking about whatever's going on. So yeah, if you... let's see, I wish I could. County affiliate meeting. All right, that's fine, my love. That's fine. There'll be another day when we rendezvous. Miss Forrest Mommy has an affiliate meeting, and we are not going to deprive Mommy of the opportunity to let everybody see just how hot she is. So, I get it. That's okay. Go on, darling, and spread the hotness. Mercy. Anyway. No, we're just kind of hanging out together and seeing what's going on and, what have you. So yeah, good times. Good times. So if you got a topic that you want to talk about while we're basically waiting for this thing, Forrest Mommy says the check is in the mail. Baby, from you, I know you're good for it. No, you're absolutely, you don't even need to tell me that, honey. You are absolutely good for it. And I know that from the bottom of my heart. So have fun tonight. Stay out of trouble, young lady, if you can. But yeah, if there's a topic that's on your mind aside from my flirting with Jessica, let me know what you want to talk about. We've got a few minutes before the president speaks, and I didn't really have time to put together an agenda. Like I say, I just I should know better by now, in that when Donald Trump tells you, or someone tells you that Donald Trump is going to be speaking at X certain time, work from the assumption that he's probably going to be running late. Well, I saw 7:30 and, there you go. That was my mistake. But now we've got time to hang out together. So, if there is a topic you want to talk about that's going on in the news, we've got a little bit before the president comes up here. Just drop it in chat and let's get into it. If I don't know about it, I can always pull up a real quick article and we'll see what's going on. But yeah, we're hanging out on YouTube. We're hanging out on Rumble, hanging out on Twitter. So tell your friends that if they want to stop by and hang out, we'd be glad to have them here with us. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Checking out my Twitter right now. Oh, well, thank you guys so much. I genuinely appreciate that. Yeah, for everybody who's kind of stopping by or checking in, we're just basically waiting for the NRB to get through some of the speakers ahead of the president, and then we'll be listening to what he has to say. Sounds like they have some sponsors who are going to be speaking, and then a couple other speakers, and then the president will be coming on. But yeah, if you got a topic on your mind you want to talk about, we've got a little bit. Oh, John McGarvey's already starting us off. New York is sacrificing its position as the financial capital of the world. John, I absolutely agree with that. what he's referring to, in case you all are not familiar with what's going on, you probably heard about Judge Arthur Engeron's decision that he handed down last Friday that hits the Trump organization and Donald Trump in particular with a $355 million fine plus interest that has to be paid in a case where no one was financially injured. The suit was not brought by the banks with whom Donald Trump had done business. It was brought by Attorney General Letitia James. And basically what it got down to, she said that Trump overinflated the value of his properties and the banks on that basis loaned him money, and they were therefore defrauded. Well, I don't know how you can claim they were defrauded, because the banks would have done their own due diligence, and they would have done their own appraisals, and they would have reviewed the financial statements, and they would have come to the conclusion that what the value of the properties were against what they were loaning money. But anyway, the upshot of it all is this. Letitia James got her scalp, and it's so bad, the perception that's out there right now. Let me see if I can find this real fast. Kathy Hochul is out there trying to convince everybody, no, this was just about Donald Trump and the fact that he is, lying to banks and whatever. The banks said he didn't even lie. But Kathy Hochul is out there right now trying to reassure the entire business community in New York City that, this won't happen to them. Well, business people are smarter than Kathy Hochul gives them credit for. There has been a steady exodus out of New York City now for quite some time of businesses, individuals, people, intellectual capital, financial capital, etc. If this thing isn't overturned and something is not done long term about it, I think John McGarvey is absolutely right. New York is absolutely they're sacrificing their position in the world. Kevin O'Leary, who is a regular panelist on Shark Tank, has been talking about this all over the media. And he is no Trump supporter at all. But even he's acknowledging this ruling is crazy. This is absolutely insane. And he's right. I mean, what went on between the banks in these transactions and Donald Trump is nothing more than what normally happens between banks and a borrower anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter if it's commercial lending or personal lending. Someone says, hey, I've got something that I can offer up as collateral to secure my loans. The bank does its due diligence. They, in turn, will, the bank will examine the collateral to see if it's worth what the person is telling them it's worth. And on the basis of what they come back with from their evaluation, they'll make a determination whether or not to go forward with the terms as proposed or whether they'll counteroffer. And that's all that happened here. Donald Trump wanted to borrow money. The banks wanted to loan it to him. He gives them financial statements. He shows them his real estate holdings. They do their due diligence. Everybody agrees to it. Trump pays back the money with interest. Trump gets the money he needed. The banks make money off the transaction. The state of New York makes money off the transaction. Everybody's happy except for Letitia James. And oh, by the way, did you guys hear her speech last Friday? Oh my God. That woman is a megalomaniac. She's got some kind of perverse messiah complex. I mean, she was just like, we've made it better for the little person in New York. I'm like, the hell with this woman. Crazy. But yeah, that and the reverberations are still coming off that decision. Now, Trump has said that he's going to appeal it. And I absolutely think he should. And beyond that, not only does this decision from the judge need to be reversed. This law that's being used to go after Trump in New York State, this thing needs to be really examined. Now, I don't think the New York legislature is going to do anything about it. And even if they do, I don't think the governor would sign it. So if this law in New York State is going to be struck down, somebody's going to have to bring suit in federal court to do it, because you cannot you can't leave this to the New York Assembly, because I don't think they'll do anything with it. But yeah, that's what's currently going on with that topic. So yeah, if you got other topics that you want to talk about while we're waiting for the president to deliver his remarks, I mean, please feel free, drop it in. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. So yeah, let me know what's on your mind. Let me know what you want to talk about. And, like I say, I very quickly put this one together at the last minute, so I didn't have time to really put together an agenda or talk about things that are going on. But yeah, if you got something out there you want to get into, by all means, let me know. I'll be happy to talk about it. I take all requests. And in the meanwhile, if you wouldn't mind, I know we've got a few minutes, but thank you to everybody who has already sent out tweets and Gettrs and Gabs and Truth Socials and Facebook posts and everything else. But yeah, just keep on spreading the word. Let's get this party going real good and see what. All right, looks like they're going back to Nashville, just I guess to check in and see what's happening. Okay, they'll be back in a little bit. So I'm going to take this down and get a second screen going here while we're waiting. Don't worry, I'll be checking in on it. So anyway, we're kind of hanging out together. This is cool. So Dave says he's heading over to Rumble. Oh, thank you, Dave. I appreciate this. Love the porch. Thank you, sir. Hey. I'm flirting with Jessica first. So there you go. No, gentlemen. That woman is so stinking gorgeous. Flirt with her all you want to. I am not. George Allen Kelly is not. George Allen Kelly? What's all that about? Okay. We'll see what that is. But yeah, we're just basically checking in, seeing what's going on. Looks like they're doing a little bit of a commercial right now. Nothing major. But let's see if I can do a real quick Twitter here and see if I can see what topics are trending right now. Stuff we can all talk about together. Let's see who's got what. Let's see who's saying what right now. Oh, by the by, you guys heard about this one? There is a very strange thing going on over at CBS. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this yet or not, but recently CBS laid off a significant number of employees, which a lot of that's been going on around media these days, a lot of downsizing, etc. But one of the people at CBS that was let go was Catherine Herridge. And that was surprising to a lot of people. I'm going to go ahead and take this down just for sake of when something comes back up, I'll let you guys know. Catherine Herridge, fantastic reporter over at CBS. She used to be over at Fox. Fantastic investigative journalist. She used to cover, I want to say, Pentagon or national security matters. But anyway, she was let go, which was a shock to a lot of people. Because frankly, in the opinion of most, and I agree with them, Catherine Herridge was one of the best things CBS had. But today, it was announced through a column, I believe, by Professor Jonathan Turley of George Washington University, that not only did they let her go, but they confiscated certain certain items are. I'm going to pull this back up. It looks like they've got a guest to be talking to live. Let's see who this is.
Absolutely, because all you see, like you mentioned earlier, are Trump flags all over Texas, as you know, and to see, I don't know if I've ever seen Biden anything in Texas, positive
No.
at least.
Beto, maybe.
Yeah, but not Biden. So you saw this.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this. Is Joey joining us now? You're a free speech defender. You witnessed something that's really changed your life.
Oh man, it transformed it. I think what initially just was us dipping our toe in the water of what are politics? What is Trump doing, bringing everybody together? How can we be a part of that? Turned into the left attacking us with the intent of squashing us and turning us into martyrs that are fighting for free speech rights for all Americans. So I think God is doing something awesome actually with what's happening.
Walk us through that day. And for some of you at home, you might remember this. I do. I remember seeing it on the news. Walk us through what happened back in 2020.
Yeah. So the Biden-Harris campaign bus was driving through Texas. Like you guys said, why on earth? I don't know. Like, who are you campaigning to? There are pictures from their campaign stops, 2-3 people in the parking lot in those giant circles painted on the ground, right? Moving on to the next stop. And so when we heard they were coming through, it was a very last minute effort to get a group together and go out and show our support for President Trump. We hoped to make the news, and we actually were effective. It was viral news, and Trump tweeted about it. He said, I love Texas. He rallied in Philadelphia, I think. Shortly thereafter that, a huge crowd he talked about. Did you guys see that? That was awesome. And then the media went wild with lies. Mainstream media used it during early election 2020 to say not to vote for President Trump. And they claimed that we drove next to the bus with the intent to run it off the road, which morphed into they ran the bus off the road. Biden even said that himself in a press release. So this is a presidential candidate running for office, smearing his other candidate with fabricated lies, which I thought was bad enough. I would have never expected that 8 months later, after those campaign staffers took office, that they would sue us under the Ku Klux Klan law for flying the Trump flags, not for doing anything wrong or breaking any laws, but for giving them emotional damage.
I don't even know where to go from here.
Emotional damage. We can sue on that. I have 3 years of emotional damage from the Biden administration.
Yeah, that's true too. I'm gonna. Where do I fall?
Where do we sign?
Okay, so but the whole time you guys are shooting video on this, so obviously it was clear that you did not run the Biden bus off the road. So that's lie number one.
Number one.
Okay. So, and then also you guys are having some fun with it. You know, Trump 2020, you had the flags out, you were kind of honking the horn. At no point did any car get close to them. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, the speed limit looked about 45 miles an hour. It was going slow. Am I right on that?
You are right. And that is because the bus was slowing down. So actually what we had imagined was we'd have a Trump train behind the bus. It'd be this glorious flag wave, single file behind the bus. It'd be awesome. And then what happened is we were all over 35 in front of it, next to it, and beside it, because it was speeding up, slowing down, and changing lanes, and nobody really knew where to drive, right? And so the bus started taking up multiple lanes, and there was a staffer car that was driving behind it. It was a white staffer car, and that staffer car caused an accident that day. He exited his lane, and he hit a truck with the Trump flag. Another viral clip from that day. That was not us. I never saw that happen, but there's a video of a woman, a woman's video, and you can hear her audio. Oh my gosh, that white car just hit that black truck. Did you see that? And then the black truck pushes the white car back, and they both keep driving down the freeway. The Biden bus is in the shot, mind you, because the staffer is right behind him. Well, mainstream media takes the clip, removes the audio, and then only shows the black truck on a loop pushing the car back, saying that we're ramming cars off the road.
Hang on, just want to pause you right there. Pause, hold that thought. We're going to throw it back to Nashville. We've got some more speakers that are taking the stage, and we'll come back and get the rest of this crazy story in the state of Texas. I can't believe this happened, but we'll send it back to Nashville with some speakers.
Thank you.
We're hurting during COVID. We couldn't get any relief. We didn't qualify for the payroll protection earlier.
Yeah, I want to hear the rest of that story myself. I really do. Because I remember that one. That was crazy when it went down the way it did. So, yeah, I was not necessarily shocked by that at all. Not shocked at all. But, yeah, there are speakers currently at the podium at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention. We're just basically waiting for President Trump. If you're just joining us, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're hanging out tonight on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitter. and glad to see everybody here. And wherever you may be, bless your hearts for being here. It is such a joy to have you. And as I say, this one was put together very, very last minute. But I thought, it's kind of important. I think we need to cover this, and glad everybody is here. So yeah, we're anyway, going back to Catherine Herridge while we're waiting for either President Trump or for the young lady with the Texas story to come back up. So as I said, Catherine Herridge was dismissed, but it came out today that not only was Catherine Herridge of CBS dismissed, all of her notes, her computers, everything that was left at the office, or maybe better to say, she wasn't allowed to take care of, or take with her, I should say, CBS News confiscated. Now, you might be sitting there saying to yourself, well, okay, it's work product. Why should they not be allowed to do it? Well, that's just it. Most anybody familiar with the news industry who has heard about this story is saying the exact same thing. What CBS did with Catherine Herridge has never been heard of. Nobody knows why they did this. CBS is not explaining themselves, and they are holding on to all of her stuff. Now, that sort of begs the question, two questions that I can immediately think of. Number one, why? And number two, what was she working on? What was she working on that was so explosive in the minds of the folks at CBS, they wouldn't let her take that information with her? Now, granted, Catherine Herridge is not on the level of a Tucker Carlson. I get it. She's good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anytime Catherine Herridge has got something out there, I will do my best to take a look at it if time allows me to do it, because she's a good reporter. She's a really good reporter. I mean, to me, she's one of the last of the good ones in that town. Honest, straight down the middle, here are the facts, here's what I've got. But what CBS did with regard to her notes, her computers, anything, materials that she'd gathered, wouldn't let them take her with it. Why? And again, I am not trying to be conspiratorial about this, but it just seems to me very, very weird. Especially, and it would be one thing if I were just sitting here saying it was weird, but everybody to a person who's heard about this, especially if they're people who've been in the news industry, are saying the same thing. They have never, ever, ever heard of what basically amounts to now a previous employer refusing to let the dismissed employee take their work product with them. Now, some industries, like I said, you'd understand why they wouldn't do that. But every news person who's heard about this said, no one has ever stopped me from taking names, phone numbers, computers, materials out the door, and I was allowed to take it with me. So I don't know what the heck is going on over CBS News, but it's just weird as can be. Over on Rumble, John McGarvey says a 19-year-old just got a felony for breaking traction of an LGBT flag painted on a road. John, if you got a link for that, drop it in Rumble. I want to see this. I mean, like I say, we've got a few minutes. Hugh Hewitt is up at the podium right now, speaking at the NRB, just ahead of Trump. I think there might be one other person after Hugh Hewitt, and then President Trump is speaking. It's not too far down the road at this point. So yeah, John, if you got a link to that, drop it in, because I'd kind of like to see that and maybe talk about it. I'd be very interested in that. So we'll see what we got there. So yeah, we're hanging out on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitter. I tell you what, I'll ask one big favor of you. I know you've been tweeting and Gettering and gabbing and Facebooking and everything else, but when President Trump hits the stage, man, let us just pump the volume on this thing and get a whole bunch of people in here. Would love to see that happen. But yeah, we're hanging out right now, just sort of chilling out. And like I say, if you got something you want to talk about while we're waiting, just let me know. I'll be happy to opine upon it. So let's see what's going on in other places. What might be hanging out there? Do. Let's see. Various other live streams are going right now. Why is Mary Lou Retton trending? Do not tell me something has happened to that woman. In case you guys don't know, Mary Lou Retton is from my home state. She is one of our greatest exports to America. If you're old enough to remember the 1984 Olympics, she was the hero, at least for us, not just West Virginians, but across the nation. Little 16, 18-year-old kid at the time, and just Mary Lou was an absolute doll baby and just brilliant in that Olympics. Just amazing. So yeah, I thought she's had some health problems recently. That's why I started to freak out when I saw that her name was trending on Twitter. I thought, oh no, please don't let something bad have happened to her. Because wonderful lady. Absolutely wonderful lady. Loved it. It'd be a good idea to have her on for an interview sometime, just to see what she's up to these days. But yeah, we're just basically hanging out. Currently at the podium at the NRB is broadcaster Hugh Hewitt. He is a commentator, radio host, pundit, etc. So, I think he is speaking ahead of President Trump. There might be one more person behind him before the president takes the podium. But just as soon as Donald Trump comes up, we will be taking a look at this. Okay, John, I just saw that you dropped the link. Let me see if I can open this in a new tab. Hang on 1 minute. Let me see what this is before I throw this up here for everybody to take a look at it. A 19-year-old has been charged with a felony after he allegedly did a burnout. Did a burnout on an LGBTQ flag mural in Florida. I went to the scene of the crime to investigate. Oh, that's what this is about. Okay, I misunderstood you, dude. So basically, okay, all right. As I understand this, and John, set me straight if I'm wrong. Dropped it also. Okay, dropped it on Twitter. Okay, cool. That'd make it a little easier for me to look at. I'm going to. Yeah, here it is. Okay. While we're waiting, let me pull this up. See if I can do that. I'll tell you where I'll do this. Hang on. Okay. Let me show you this real quick while we're waiting on President Trump. John dropped me something. Apparently, a 19-year-old has been arrested, charged with a felony in Florida. And what they did, let me see if I can fast forward this.
If anyone's interested, Giuseppe.
Sorry, hang on. Florida man pleads guilty to burning tire marks on LG. You've got to be kidding me. They charged him and he's now pled guilty on this? Holy cow. Unbelievable. Wow. Just wow. Holy cow. Holy cow, indeed. John McGarvey on Rumble says, I don't condone his actions, but is drastically overcharged. Absolutely. Yeah, should he been doing a burnout on a public street? No. Doesn't matter if there's an LGBTQ flag painted down on the pavement or not. He shouldn't have been doing a burnout anyway. I agree with you there. But yeah, I agree. That's an overcharging. That's ridiculous. There's no sense in that. None whatsoever. So yeah, we're just basically waiting for President Trump. And again, if you're just stopping by, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter. We are going to be live stream covering President Trump's remarks at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention in Nashville, Tennessee. And we're waiting for some speakers to finish just ahead of him. Right now at the podium is radio host Hugh Hewitt. You may have seen him on the Salem, or heard him on the Salem radio network, and seen him being a co-host or co-moderator of various Republican presidential debates over the years. And he's speaking right now at the podium at the NRB, and we're just basically waiting for President Trump and just hanging out together while we do. So if you got something you want to talk about by way of a topic, yeah, drop it in chat. Let's get into it. I'll be happy to. I'll take all comers, you know. And when we have settled some major controversial issues tonight, one of the biggest one is, do YouTubers wear pants? Well, I put that to bed very quickly and very early on. Yes, I do wear pants when I live stream. At a minimum, I wear shorts. But yes, tonight, because it's a presidential remark, I am wearing pants. So there you go. And we've been talking about, what's been going on in New York, been talking about what's going on with Catherine Herridge over at CBS. And then John just dropped this story about the 19-year-old who has been charged with a felony for doing a burnout over an LGBTQ flag that was painted into the pavement. Which, I mean, I'm with John on this. That's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, if you've got a topic you want to talk about, just drop it in chat. We'll get into it. John says, "You're new. The pants won't last that." I'll have you know, sir. I will have you know, these pants have been lasting me for a good while. Thank you very much. They stay up on my hips and they don't give me too much trouble. So to me, that's a good pair of blue jeans. There you go. So yeah, we're just hanging out together and just talking to each other, more or less. So as I indicated earlier, one of these days I'm going to learn better that when someone tells you that Donald Trump is going to be speaking at X certain time, you probably want to add an hour to that. So now I guess the first time I do that, you know what's going to happen. I'll start the live stream right in the middle of when Donald Trump is speaking, and I'll miss half the speech. So, but that's why we have editing tools for YouTube and Rumble. So there you go. We'll probably wind up cutting some of this down so we can upload it a little bit later, make it easier for everybody. But if nothing else, you get the pleasure of hearing my melodious voice. They say that the legendary singer Mel Torme was known as the Velvet Fog. I have also been given a nickname to describe my voice. Most folks usually refer to me as the Putrid Smog. So, yeah, when they hear my voice, it's like, oh my God, stop it. So, yeah, there you go. I'm famous in more ways than you can even possibly imagine. So, there you go. Anyway, we're hanging out on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitter. The stream, such as it is, was very last minute, very impromptu. So if you got something you want to talk about by way of topics in the news, let me know. I'll be happy to take it up with you. We can get into it or chew on it. agree about it, disagree agreeably. We'll do something with it, even if it's wrong. Which is one of the great joys. It's really one of the great joys of doing live streaming, is that, you just never quite know when, when or what you can get into or what you can talk about. It's a load of fun. Absolutely a load of fun. So we got a speaker coming back to the podium. Let's see what's about to happen next. So hang on a second. I'll pop out and put the volume back up and see what's going on here.
I'm the president of Heritage Action for America in September 2023. He now serves as the president of the Heritage Foundation and Heritage Action for America in a joint role. Roberts previously served as the chief executive officer of the Texas Public Policy Foundation, the largest state think tank in the nation. Roberts is a prolific analyst and commentator, and recently delivering a powerful message of national sovereignty to a set of self-appointed global elites at the World Economic Forum. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kevin Roberts.
Head of the Heritage Foundation. I'm gonna stay in here.
Thanks, Troy. It is so great to leave Washington and get back to America. God bless you. As a Texan, I particularly like Nashville because you listen to both kinds of music, country and Western. And as president of Heritage, I'm honored to be here with you, all kidding aside, for your annual conference. As I told the attendees at your Washington Media Summit last fall, in my experience, spending time with religious broadcasters is like being transported back to the Acts of the Apostles. You're surrounded by true disciples, joined in fellowship with men and women who take our Savior's Great Commission seriously, and so seriously that they've made it your life's work. As a deeply religious American myself, I'm privileged not only to see so many fellow citizens of faith coming together this week, but to hear about the transformative work you're all doing across the country. You really are the apostles of our age, and I and my family and all of us at Heritage rely on your witness and your daily work in the trenches. So before I go any further, let me tell you, thank you.
And that is Mr. Kevin Roberts, who is the head of the Heritage Foundation. I'm going to dip out for just...
And finally, as a Roman Catholic surrounded by so many brothers and sisters representing so many diverse denominations, I'm humbled by this opportunity tonight to witness your devotion and share in your fellowship. For as our Lord says, where two or three gather in my name, there I am with them. And now you can call your friends and say, I even met a Catholic who quotes scripture. We exist, just not in the Vatican.
Oh, that will get him in trouble. That will get him in trouble in certain circles.
Yeah,
Definitely.
you see, I'm one of those conservative Roman Catholics the FBI doesn't like. So you are my people. Thanks for having me. I'm well aware that none of you RSVP'd to this presidential forum to hear from the president of a Washington think tank. But trust me, from my perspective, that's a good thing. Appearing on a stage before Donald Trump is like opening for the king himself, George Strait.
Some people say that'd be George Jones.
If you do well, everyone will be very nice. If you do poorly, no one will remember anyway. You're not here tonight only because you are interested in hearing from President Trump. You're here because you love the United States of America and you recognize, in spite of that love, in fact, because of that love, in spite of her problems, that the United States is in big trouble. Our country today, as you know, is beset by social problems, cultural problems, political problems, economic problems, moral and religious problems. Some are grand in scope, like a national debt larger than our entire economy and a national birth rate below replacement level. Others hit closer to home, like the collapse of church attendance, porn addiction among young men, and the mental health crisis among young women. And yet, as important as those long-term problems are, they still take a backseat because so many urgent, immediate crises are at our throats. There's the border crisis, a national crime wave, hot wars in Israel and Ukraine, and as we have analyzed at Heritage, a new Cold War with China. All these challenges, important and urgent, have grown so pervasive. And Washington has become so dysfunctional that it's hard for serious, good faith leaders to even prioritize our problems, let alone try to solve them. And I don't just mean elites or the left. The political right is torn too, about the crises we face and how to address them, about our political parties and goals, and even about the political candidates we'll have to choose from this election year. I know I personally grapple with these questions myself, and institutionally, Heritage does too. I think all conservatives do, with good reason. They're tough questions, and like it or not, ready or not, in a little over 8 months, we're going to have to answer those questions, or they will be answered for us. And yet, as important as elections, politics, public policy, and our nation is, as Christians, we must first remember that our struggle, as Paul warns the Ephesians, is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Let us never forget the true battle we must all wage as we go about our daily work. As the head of a conservative policy organization, I work in the world of policy, not politics. In other words, what government should do, not who should run it. It's not my job to tell you or anyone how to vote. But what I think I can do, and what I'd like to do tonight, as a friend, is offer a way of thinking about America in 2024 and the choices we face to help people of faith and all Americans see those choices clearly. I think the best way to find that clarity is to begin with a simple question. Why does the Washington establishment hate Donald Trump and dread his reelection this November? By establishment, everyone knows who I mean. The National Democrat Party, obviously, but also wide swaths of the Republican Party's leadership, especially in Washington. You see, Heritage is bipartisan in its critique of what's wrong with this country. The federal bureaucracy and the deep state, the legacy news media and entertainment industry, academia at the college level, obviously, but also the left-wing teacher unions who dominate our K-12 education system. Most large corporations, especially the vast progressive empire of corporate human resources departments and consultants, and the loosely affiliated multi-billion-dollar network of liberal foundations, endowments, activists, and nonprofits, from Planned Parenthood to Black Lives Matter to Antifa. Call it the left, or call it woke Inc., or call it the establishment. It's all the same thing. The small group of wealthy, well-connected elites who control the institutions that set the parameters and the tone of our national discourse. What do they want why do they want Donald Trump to lose so badly? Why are they so prepared to do everything in their power to stop him? If you ask them, they will offer up a litany of high-minded, seemingly principled reasons. We've all heard them. Authoritarianism, right? Norms, the rule of law, decency, that's the one President Biden ran on in 2020. Intolerance, corruption, chaos, the separated families, remember? He encouraged rioters and violence, and he lied all the time. Now, whatever your political leanings, we should all acknowledge that these are things democracies should care about. In principle, they are all very good reasons to oppose any political candidate, let alone a candidate for president of the United States. But are they the real reasons the liberal establishment actually fears Donald Trump's return to the White House? The evidence overwhelmingly suggests not. Even a cursory review of this record from just the last few years shows that the liberal establishment has no principled objection to any of these things. I'm going to look at them in turn. Does the establishment, for example, oppose authoritarianism? President Biden has followed Barack Obama's illegal practice of inventing new laws out of whole cloth like a dictator. He declared an eviction moratorium and vaccine mandates and canceled more than $100 billion in student loans, something he continues today, literally today. In each case, he acted without congressional authorization and in open defiance of federal law. And in each case, the court smacked him down. Meanwhile, the Colorado Supreme Court recently and illegally removed President Trump's name from the state's presidential ballot. They did it without any vote by the public or input from the state legislature. And the supposedly anti-authoritarian establishment did what? They cheered. What about norms? Well, the most important norm under our Constitution is supposed to be the government's protection of our equal rights and guarantee of equal justice to all citizens. Today, though, the norm on the left is a federal government weaponized against conservatives, like the Obama IRS targeting conservative nonprofit groups, like the Biden administration's collusion with big tech companies to censor conservative speech, like the Department of Education's harassment of religious colleges for opposing the LGBTQ agenda, or like the army of Marxist district attorneys who let violent criminals run free in your cities and instead spend their time persecuting President Trump and his supporters. But see, this is about norms. What about the norms at the FBI, where Christian parents protesting school boards and daily churchgoers have been officially classified as suspected domestic terrorists? The cold, deliberate, systematic abuse of federal power to threaten and intimidate conservatives, that is the so-called norm in Washington today that the establishment supposedly fears Donald Trump would disrupt. What about the rule of law? Do they mean on the southern border? Or on city streets? Or in San Francisco, where criminals are allowed to shoplift and worse with impunity? Or do they mean Nancy Pelosi's long career of lucrative stock trades using inside political information? Or do they mean the Hawaii Supreme Court's recent ruling that the Second Amendment no longer applies in that state because it violates, quote, the spirit of aloha?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dip out, and we're basically just waiting for President Trump to come in and speak. The gentleman who's up at the podium right now is Kevin Roberts, who is the president of the Heritage Foundation. And if you're not familiar with Heritage, I strongly recommend take a look at them. They have been a bulwark in the conservative movement for years, offering policy ideas that go back to the days that predate Reagan in 1980. They were laying the intellectual foundation for what became the Reagan Revolution. If Reagan was kind of stuck on something, he'd turn around and look at the people over at Heritage and go, well, what have you got for me this time? And that's how it went. It was a great partnership between them and the legendary William F. Buckley Jr. It was a very heady time intellectually for conservatives. And Roberts, the gentleman at the podium right now, is the president of the Heritage Foundation, is carrying on that great, great tradition. So we're just waiting for President Trump to take the podium, which shouldn't be too long. I believe that Kevin Roberts is the last person speaking before President Trump. There'll probably be the master ceremonies will give the introduction, and when they do, that'll bring out the Donald. So we're just hanging out together and waiting for that to happen. And again, for everybody who's here, God bless you guys. I mean, there's folks over on Rumble, there's folks on YouTube, there's folks on Twitter. And also, God bless you for sending out your tweets, your gabs, your getters, telling everybody to get in here. You know, I've always said this channel is a going little concern, and because of you guys, it's becoming a going big concern. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You guys are just kick ass awesome. You really are. I've got the best audience on social media right now. John McGarvey says Heritage is picking the transition team. They're one of them. They're one of the organizations that's heavily involved in trying to screen people for a new Trump administration should he win. And that's something that I had heard about, but I didn't really understand until recently, there are about 4,000 political appointees that work for the executive branch. 1,000 of them are appointed by the Senate, and the other 3,000 are straight political appointees. And the Senate, depending upon which party controls it, can slow down the appointment of the first 1,000 because they have to be confirmed. But the other 3,000 are purely at the discretion of the President of the United States. And from everything that's being reported, there are various groups, and the Heritage Foundation is one of them, that is working to try and get a transition team already in place. In other words, hey, here's the resume. We've checked this guy out. We've vetted him or her. We've checked this person out. They're good. They're solid. Go take a look and, give them a hire. So, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. John Heritage is definitely involved in that effort right now, which that's one thing Trump did not have going into 2017, because it's kind of like that great scene from the movie The Candidate. If you've never seen the movie, I recommend it to you. It stars Robert Redford and the late Peter Boyle. It tells the story of this underdog candidate out in California who's running for the U.S. Senate, and he wins. And on election night, Robert Redford, who plays the role of the candidate, looks at the campaign manager, Peter Boyle, says, "Now what?" And nobody can give him an answer because nobody ever thought he'd win. Well, that was Trump in 2017. Nobody thought he would win. By and large, there were people who did, but the mainstream didn't think he would, even among conservatives. And so when Trump went into the presidency in 2017, he barely had a transition team in place. And such as it was being headed up by Chris Christie, which really didn't help anybody. But you get my point. So this time, however, people who are supporting President Trump, that if he does win re-election, they are putting the pieces and the players in place so that the second he takes his hand off the Bible from being sworn in on January 20th, Trump goes right to work, and so do his people. So, and speaking of going right to work, we're just basically waiting for President Trump to arrive at the podium at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention in Nashville, Tennessee. And I want to put this up here. And Gypsy, thank you so much. Yeah, the channel is almost 1 year old, and we now have almost 1,000 subscribers. And for a guy who started this from scratch with virtually no social media presence, you guys have been extraordinary. So for every person who subscribed on YouTube, on Rumble, God bless you. You guys are awesome. Keep spreading the word. Ours is not the fanciest. We're not the most techie, but we're definitely willing to give our opinion and tell people what we think, and gather people and see what they've got to say, and we'll talk to anybody. So currently, Kevin Roberts, the president of the Heritage Foundation, is speaking at the podium, and we're just basically waiting for President Trump. So if you've got a topic you want to talk about or something you want to get into, drop it in chat. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. Like I said, this live stream was put together so last minute and so impromptu that I didn't really put together an agenda of items like I normally would for, let's say, Front Porch Brunch, which is this Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m., by the way. So if you got something you want to talk about, drop it in. Let's hear it. Let's hear what you guys say. And we'll talk about it while we're waiting for the president to arrive at the podium. But yeah, it's been an interesting week already, and there's some big stories that are still yet to drop. Everybody is waiting on the Colorado decision from the Supreme Court. Oh, by the by, speaking of courts, did you hear about, and this happened today, did you hear about the amicus brief that was filed at the Supreme Court by former Attorney General Edwin Meese? the brief basically challenges the appointment of Jack Smith as special counsel in the matter of the United States versus Donald Trump. Basically, what Edmund Meese, and there's a few other legal scholars that co-authored this with him, but they're basically arguing that Smith should not be special counsel because his appointment is unconstitutional. And I'm going to do my best. Matter of fact, let me jot myself a note right now. I'm going to do my best to get into that Saturday morning. And we're going to talk about that. Kiss brief. Jack Smith. Oh, okay. John McGarvey says, yeah, we just went over it on Robert Govey's channel. Tell you what. Oh, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to get into it. We're absolutely going to get into it, though. Oh, thank you. It's very sweet of you. This is not one of my better hats, by the way, but we're upgrading. Don't you worry. We are upgrading. So there you go. But thank you very much. Yeah, I want to get into that because that brief looks really interesting. Because, I mean, the cases against Donald Trump, especially the one in D.C., to me has all kinds of problems. Now, if you're not familiar with it, that case in D.C. that Jack Smith has brought is basically a 4-count indictment. The problem with it is 2 of the counts rest on a very, I would call it, broad interpretation of a law that has to do with obstructing documents and obstructing official proceedings that was actually intended for, corporations and boardrooms after the Enron scandals of the early 2000s. But Smith and other prosecutors have been using it to go after January 6 people. The other 2 counts deal with the question of presidential immunity. Well, at the rate it's going right now, the Supreme Court could very well, by May, knock out all of that of that 4-count indictment, because there's a case pending before actually 2 cases. There's a case pending before the Supreme Court right now having to do with the question of the Enron law that's being used to prosecute obstruction of official proceedings. And if that's ruled in favor of the J6 defendant who's brought it before the Supreme Court, then there goes 2 of the counts against Trump. And if the Supreme Court rules that Trump has presidential immunity, given his actions on January 6th, there go the other 2 counts. The whole thing could be thrown out. So right now, the case is not even on the docket in D.C. because Judge Shutkin, and this, to her credit on this, has said, there ain't no sense going forward with this case until we know what the Supreme Court's going to do. So, yeah, but that brief today that was filed, that looks interesting. So, anywho, we're just basically waiting for President Trump to arrive. And like I said, if you've got a topic and you want to talk about it, let's get into it. Be happy to hear what's everybody. Oh, by the by, how is everybody's cell phone service right now? If you're having a problem with your cell phone, given what happened this morning, drop an F in the chat. Let's see who's got issues going on out there. Be curious to find out. For my part, I mean, maybe I just got lucky because of my location. I didn't run into any issues. So, but yeah, I'd be very curious to find out if anybody had problems with it or not. So yeah, that's there's all kinds of things going on in the news. All kinds of things. So it did not affect moi. Well, it didn't affect me either. Did not know. John McGarvey over on Rumble says no issues all day long. I didn't either. I did not either. But boy, did it put a scare into everybody, and understandably so. So while we're waiting, just a couple of housekeeping items. This Saturday morning, 10:30 a.m., will be Front Porch Brunch, where we do our weekly review of items in the news. And because of the timing of when it's going to happen, we will be live stream covering President Trump's speech at CPAC. Now, he's scheduled to speak at about 12 noon, but as has been observed by many different people, there's regular time and then there's Trump time. So, but the way I look at it, we're going to be hanging out together, talking about some items from the previous week's news. And if he's going to speak at 12 or 12:30 or even 1 o'clock, there's no sense doing two separate streams for that. We'll just continue on from inside of Front Porch Brunch, and then we'll just live stream cover President Trump's speech at CPAC. So that's going on at 10:30, starting 10:30 a.m. Saturday morning Eastern Standard, and then at 6:30. Please, this is funny. So you want some bacon for brunch? Okay, bacon for brunch, she says. Well, I'll see what I can do. At 6:30 this coming Saturday night, we are going to be live stream covering the results of the South Carolina primary. And that will be myself, Ruben Christopher Haynes, Brentley from the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast. I've sent out invitations to a few other people. And, okay, it looks like Kevin Roberts is leaving the stage. And I have a feeling President Trump is about to be introduced. So I'm going to bring it back in. And we will see what goes on here. So I'm going to dip out for just a second.
2024 election from a media perspective and from a public policy perspective. The time has come to gain the insight from a candidate perspective. We invited all eligible candidates from both parties to participate in the NRB's presidential forum. One of those candidates chose to set aside this evening to address this community of religious broadcasters, and we are honored to have him present with us tonight. Donald J. Trump is the 45th President of the United States. Throughout his life, he has continually set the standards of business and entrepreneurial excellence, especially in real estate, sports, and entertainment. In 2016, Mr. Trump won the presidency in his first ever run for any political office. As the 45th President of the United States, several of Mr. Trump's signature accomplishments included historic tax cuts and regulation cuts, breakthroughs for peace in the Middle East, moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, confirming 3 Supreme Court justices, strengthening Americans' border security, fighting for the persecuted church, and much more. We look forward to hearing his perspective on the future of this nation this evening. It is now my distinct honor to introduce to you the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Okay, folks, I'm just taking down the volume because I'm not sure if they're going to. Yep. Yeah, I do not feel like getting a copyright strike from YouTube. Thank you very much. So yes, President, he looks like he's lost weight. Is it just me, or does he look like he's lost weight? Anyway, President Trump is now taking the stage at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention in Nashville, Tennessee. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We are on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We are on Twitter. And President Trump is now taking the stage a little later than anticipated, but we're going to live stream the comments. And so, yeah, go ahead if you can. I'm going to go ahead and do it right now. Send out a Twitter, a Gab, a Truth Social, a tweet, or a Gettr, wherever you may be on social media. Send it out to your friends and say, hey, Trump's here. Let's hang out and listen. So give me a second. I'm going to do that as well. And let's get this party started. Let's see what the Donald has to say. So while you're all doing that, I'll do my thing too, because we're going to have a minute or two Lee Greenwood, which I'm not going to let anybody listen to, lest I get a copyright thing. So there you go. All right. So let me do my thing right now. And bless your hearts, it is actually happening. So send it out everywhere you got it. I am doing some typing even as we speak. Okay, I think the music is over, so I'm going to go ahead and pop the volume. There we go.
Thank you. What a group. There was no way I was going to miss this. The plane was coming in. That plane was coming in. I said, "Are we okay?" to the pilot. He said, "I think so." I didn't like that answer. "I think we're okay, sir. I think we should be okay." I'm saying, "Should we turn back?" He said, "I wouldn't mind if we did." I said, "I don't have the courage to turn back from these people. Just land this sucker, would you please?" Little rough weather out there. Thank you very much, everybody. And it's a true honor to be here in this beautiful Nashville this is a great place, with the National Religious Broadcasters. What an important group. And they're giving you a hard time in Washington, but you won't have a hard time in about 11 months from now, I can tell you. You won't have a hard time. Let me begin by saying congratulations on 80 incredible years of spreading the great word of God. It's really great. What you do is very important. Let me thank the president and CEO of NRB, Troy Miller, Executive Vice President Linda Smith, NRB Chairman Jim Sanders. Oh, you got the whole group here tonight. This is power. This is power from above. General Counsel Michael Farris, Director of Public Policy Noel Heisinger, as well as Ambassador David Friedman. And David, where is David? Where is my David? I'm gonna get you up here in a little while. I think we gotta hear a little bit about what's going on over there. Former Congresswoman, a terrific person, Michelle Bachmann. Where's Michelle? Where is Michelle? Hi, Michelle. Hi. It's been a long time, doing a great job. Heritage Foundation President, somebody else doing an unbelievable job. He's bringing it back to levels it's never seen. Dr. Kevin Roberts. Kevin, thank you, Kevin. Kevin, thank you, wherever you may be. Thank you, Kevin. Pastor Robert Jeffers, he's up there all the time, and he's always saying good things. A long time ago, when I just announced he was on Fox, of all places, and he said, no, he may not know the Bible as well as some. He may not know every passage. He may not know it actually so well at all. But he's the greatest leader, and he is a believer and a strong believer, and he's going to take us to places that we would never have been taken before, and he turned out to be right. He turned out to be right. So, Robert, thank you very much. Robert Jeffers, great guy. Pastor Jack Hibbs, thank you, Pastor. We got a lot of the big shots here tonight. And Pastors James Ward and Sharon Ward, thank you very much. A man who's treated me most of the times pretty good. And I like him, and he is a smart guy. Hugh Hewitt. Where are you? Where are you? Thank you. Another man who's, I just think he's an incredible guy. He's a patriot. He loves his country. Sebastian Gorka. Those two guys are really amazing. And everybody at Salem Media Group, you've been incredible. You really are. And you're very popular. More popular than you would even know. And of course, a very special thanks to all of the inspiring people in the audience today, the broadcasters and communicators, the brave independent Christian journalists, and they are brave. the missionaries who go to the world's most dangerous places, and I don't know how you do it. You're among the bravest people in the world, and you do a job that nobody could do but you. And the pastors, podcasters, producers, and patriots whose ministry lifts up the spirits of tens of millions of Americans. You do an incredible thing for humanity, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's incredible people. Thank you. We're going to save this country. It will be thanks to the men and women like you, like the people in this audience, and we are represented by the best, the people who make God's work your work, God's work your work. That's what you do, and I want to thank you all. Incredible job. Thank you very much. When this legendary organization was founded 8 decades ago, it was in another moment of crisis. We are in a crisis right now. We've got an incompetent president who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He will not lead us to the promised land, as the expression goes. 1944 was the year of D-Day, the Battle of the Bulge, and General Douglas MacArthur's famous return to the Philippines. Please sit down. We'll be here for a little while. Thank you. We've got a lot of time. Our country was at war with the enemy and they wanted to extinguish our way of life forever. It was a very bad time, but here at home, Christians knew that victory depended not only on the force of American arms, but also on the faith in American hearts. And we've got to get more of that back in our country today. We really do. Have to get more of it back. Your institution was formed to give voice to an army of preachers and ministers and faith leaders who fought every day to strengthen America with the good news of the gospel and the love of Jesus Christ. Today we are in another struggle for survival of our nation. I believe it's the most dangerous point in the history of our country because of the power of the weaponry. It's no longer army tanks going back and forth, blasting each other out. It's nuclear weapons and other weapons that are just as devastating. And we need brilliant people to do the job. And if you don't have that, it's going to be a very bad time for the world. This time, the greatest threat is not from the outside of our country. I really believe this. It's from within. It's the people from within our country that are more dangerous than the people outside. We can handle China. We can handle Russia. We can handle all of them if you have a smart leader. But the inside people are very dangerous. They're very sick people, in my opinion, in many cases. They're sick. I'm here today because I know that to achieve victory in this fight, just like in the battles of the past, we still need the hand of our Lord and the grace of Almighty God. We have to have that. Our country is being destroyed by a radical left, corrupt political class that has gone communist, Marxist, and even fascist. I used to say we will never have a socialist state. And I was right. We passed over socialism. Socialism's a nice way by comparison to where we are. From Joe Biden on down, and I'm not sure that Biden knows what the hell's going on. I don't think he knows he's alive, actually. And I never used to say that until I got indicted. Then I said, okay, now I can say it like it is. They said, well, we'll never indict a popular American president. Don't forget, I got more votes. We got more votes, all of us together, than any president. Think of it. Than any president, sitting president in the history of our country. Got more votes than any, by far, by a lot. And lots of bad things happen, very bad. We can never let that happen again. They rigged the election, and look at the mess our country's in right now. Would have never happened, including inflation. Israel wouldn't have been attacked. Ukraine wouldn't have been attacked. China wouldn't be thinking about Taiwan, wouldn't even be thinking about it. There'd be no inflation. It was energy that caused it. We had inexpensive energy. We have more liquid gold under our feet, think of it, than any other country in the world, and we don't use it. We go to Venezuela to get their tar. It's so sad. It's so pathetic. From Joe Biden on down, they have thrown open our borders to an illegal alien invasion by the world's most sadistic criminals and savage gangs, while putting peaceful pro-life citizens behind bars. We have a new category of crime. I said it last night for the first time. We did a show. Laura Ingraham, highest rating she's ever had. How about that? Don't we love that? What do I get out of it? I get nothing. So what difference does it make? What do they give me? Nothing. But there were a lot of people watching. But you just see what's happening. You see so many things happening that are just unthinkable. It's unthinkable that millions of people would be allowed into our country. It's unthinkable. Who would do this? They've unleashed mobs of foreign jihadists to praise Hamas in our streets. They're praising Hamas while they slander law-abiding Americans as domestic terrorists. You heard the J6 hostages. You saw the spirit that these people have, the spirit. You would think they wouldn't have any spirit left, but they have tremendous spirit. What's happened to them is probably to that extent never happened in our country before. They're weaponizing law enforcement to target parents, conservatives, and Catholics. Catholics, more than anybody, Catholics. What's going on with Catholics? Do we have any Catholics in this audience? Raise your hand, please. I just want to see. Not too many, but I will tell you, how the hell do you vote for this person? They have gone after Catholics. That's probably why we don't have any of this audience. There are none left. But there's one sitting in first row, and he's a very important one, I will tell you. No, but how Catholics? I mean, they're being persecuted, Catholics. But evangelicals, and they're all on the list. For all Americans, but especially for Christians, nothing is more important than to defeat this wicked system and to return to fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. You have to return to the constitutional rule of law. We're not there. There's much work to be done, but there is no doubt where we have to begin. We have to begin. And we have to begin immediately. The restoration of law and justice in America begins with firing crooked Joe Biden on November 5th, 2024. If we don't fire him, our country, I believe, is doomed. I believe it's doomed. As you know, the left is trying to shame Christians. They try and shame us. I'm a very proud Christian, actually. I've been very busy fighting and, taking the bullets, taking the arrows. I'm taking them for you, and I'm so honored to take them. You have no idea. I'm being indicted for you, as I say. I'm being indicted over and over and over. I've been indicted more than Al Capone, the great gangster. Scarface. My parents are looking down. They said, "Do you believe this happened to me?" I never heard the word before, essentially. I never heard the word before. Think of it. I've been indicted more than some of the greatest criminals in the world for nothing. For nothing. If my plane flies over a blue state, that evening I get a subpoena to report to a federal grand jury. Al Capone would have dinner with somebody. If he didn't like the look on his face, he'd kill them. He never gets indicted. No, what they're doing is very dangerous for our country. You see it. You see the support I have. Look, this never happened before. When somebody goes through this kind of stuff, they immediately go to the microphone. They say, "I will be leaving office now. I will be home. I'm going home and love my family and cherish my family and fight for my name." And that's the last you ever see of this poor person. With me, I get indicted and my numbers go up. What the hell is going on? Because the people know it's a scam. They understand it. They know we're being scammed. See? It's so true. They want to silence you, demoralize you, and keep you out of politics. Stay the hell out of politics. If I wasn't running, and if I wasn't leading by a lot, you see the polls today, I'm up by 12 points and 14 over crooked Joe Biden. And in a national poll, I'm up by 91 points on I won't use the term because some people think it's a little bit nasty, but some people you don't like very much. Haley, I'm up 91 points. That's a lot. And in South Carolina, Nikki Haley is losing to me. It looks like she's going to lose by 25 or 30 points. That's a lot. She's governor, but people don't like her too much. And she's hurting the party. But I don't care. Let her run, because think of it, if she's not running, they're not talking about us. So maybe it's better if she runs a little bit. But she's not doing well, and we can't let it happen. You know, it's we have to stick together as a party. We have enough of a fight on whether you call it the radical left or the communists or the fascists or whatever you want to call them. That's our fight, and we have to save our country. But Christians, they can't afford to sit on the sidelines in this fight. They have to really get out there. They have to do what they have to do, and they have to win. The corrupt persecution by this regime will not stop with me. Oh, it's not going to stop with me. I mean, they gave me a fine of $355 million for doing nothing wrong. This was a fine like never seen before. And you know the amazing thing, the people in this country, they understood it immediately. It's all a big hoax. If I wasn't running, I wouldn't have been sued. None of these indictments would happen. And if I wasn't, once I started winning, I said to my wife, I said, our great First Lady who sends her regards, she loves everybody in this room. But I said, when I saw these numbers were way ahead, I said, oh, this is going to be painful. I'm going to probably get another 12 indictments in the next week or two. Although they're backfiring, I know I heard in one case they were getting ready to do it and they got a call from Washington, don't do it. We're going to indict this guy into office. But they're bad people. The chains are already tightening around all of us. I mean, if you think about it, ultimately the radical left is coming after all of us because they know that our allegiance is not to them. Our allegiance is to our country, and our allegiance is to our Creator. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. How any Christian can vote for a Democrat, Christian or person of faith, how you can vote for a Democrat is crazy. It's crazy.
Be careful.
They've got to stop. They've got to stop because it's hard. You know, we have to really go out on November 5th, and we have to get votes like nobody ever got before because they always cheat. We have some great safeguards, a lot of things. The last time, well, we won one that we weren't supposed to win. They went crazy, and they decided to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And we were somewhat unsuspecting, and they did something that really has set back our country tremendously. But we're going to get votes. I will tell you, we did phenomenally in 2016. We won. We did much better in 2020. We got millions and millions of more votes, and we got scammed. And the enthusiasm was probably the likes of which nobody's ever seen in an election in this country for the both of them. The enthusiasm for this election coming up in November is far greater than it was in 2016 or 2020. Far greater. It's not even a contest. I've never seen anything like it. Even coming over here, everybody has a Trump sign. Trump, Trump, Trump. And, you know, unfortunately, we're still 9 months away, a little more than 9 months away. And the sad part is that the incompetence of this man and this administration can do tremendous damage in 9 months. And it's a long time. You know, 9 months sounds like it's short, and it, politically speaking, is pretty short. It's not a long period. But the damage they do is just overwhelming, what they're allowing to happen to our country. What they cannot stand is that in the end, we do not answer to bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. We do. We answer to God in heaven. So today I come before you as a friend and an ally and a fellow believer to ask for your help and your support and your prayers for this country. We need your prayers, most importantly. And I make you a simple promise. In my first term, I fought for Christians harder than any president has ever done before. You know that. You know that. And I will fight even harder for Christians with 4 more years in the White House. We did things that the likes of which nobody has ever done for Christians in this country, and I'm very proud of that and honored by it. Just think of what, with God's help, we already achieved in our historic first term. Just a few of the things under my leadership and working with you and a lot of the great people in the room. Jack, thank you very much, by the way. You see you sitting there. Everyone knows who I'm talking about. Thank you very much. Great job. And so many others. Under my leadership, we did more to uphold religious freedom than any administration in history, and everybody agrees. So, Robert, I guess you were right, weren't you, huh? We fearlessly protected the conscience rights of doctors, nurses, teachers, and faith groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor. We fought very hard alongside of them, and we had some incredible results. I blocked the IRS from using the Johnson Amendment to interfere with pastors' freedom of speech. And Joe Biden is trying to take it back. He's trying to take it away. They used that. I'll never forget, I was in New York in Trump Tower. It was 2015. I had probably 45 pastors, some rabbis, and but we had people of faith and teachers of faith and very people I want to hear from. And I said, I'd love to have your endorsement. And they looked a little bit like bewildered, because I didn't know what the hell. I never ran for office before. Now I'm running for president and I'm leading. And I say, I want to have your endorsement. And they said, no, I don't. We just can't do that. I'm wondering, because they had come up 2 or 3 times. We got along great. We all agreed on just about everything. But when I said, I'd love to have your endorsement, the room went sort of silent. And I called one of them over and I said, what's wrong? I don't understand. Why wouldn't you endorse me? I mean, the person you're talking about, and you could go either way, whether it's Biden or Hillary Clinton. I don't use the word crooked, for I took that word away from her and I put it now on Biden. I call her now beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. But I said, why aren't they endorsing me? I'm so much better. I mean, I don't want to brag, but I am so much for what you are all about, and what you're about is the most important thing. They said, sir, we're not allowed to. We have a thing called the Johnson Amendment. I never heard of that. I said, what is it? Well, if we openly support somebody, politically, we could lose everything. They'll take away, we have a tax exempt status. They'll take that away. Churches will be devastated, will be devastated. I said, I never knew that. This was Lyndon Johnson, very powerful president, actually, powerful guy. He knew how to get things done. And he had a problem with, I guess they say, a pastor in Houston or Dallas, big problem. And he did this. He put this horrible rule into effect, and it was a very strong rule. And I said, so, and we were on the 68th floor of Trump Tower, and we're looking down on Fifth Avenue. I said, so that means that any person down there has equal power to you people, and you're the people that everybody wants to listen to, but you're not allowed to back that up because you need some political strength. They said, essentially, that's right. We can't really do anything because we'll lose tax exempt status and other things. And I said, that's too bad. I said, if I get in, we are going to totally void out the Johnson Amendment. And I was able to do that. We voided it out. And you were able to speak because you're the people that I want to hear from and that other people want to hear from. And you're not allowed to speak. And you should be allowed. If you see somebody that believes in Christianity, if you see somebody that loves evangelicals or Israel, which has become more and more prominent in your thoughts and your prayers, you should be able to vote and to promote the person that's backing the ideas that you love and cherish and are very important. So I thought it was the most ridiculous thing. Anyway, we got rid of it and people took a much more active stance, and that's great. And we're going to do it again, and we're going to get it out now permanently. We were putting it in the tax, but we had tremendous bite back on that. But for 4 years, we went through a great period. You were able to speak, and we're going to make that on a permanent basis. You're going to be able to do it because you're the people we want to hear from, the pastors and the ministers and the rabbis. The people in this room are the people we want to hear from, and they have to have a political voice. You know, if you think about it, you have men, you have women, and you have religion. If you look at it, you have more than the men, you have more than the women. You have such power, but you weren't allowed to use that power, and you're now allowed to use it. I get in there, you're going to be using that power at a level that you've never used it before. It's going to bring back the churchgoer. I mean, you have to see, I don't like the charts when I see charts where they're going in the wrong direction. We don't like that. We're going to bring it back. And I really believe it's the biggest thing missing from this country. It's the biggest thing missing. We have to bring back our religion. We have to bring back Christianity in this country.
That line about bringing them back into power, that's going to be in the headlines tomorrow. Would not surprise
Thank
me
you
at
very
all.
much. I issued guidance making clear that the right of freedom to worship does not end at the door at a public school, and I supported school prayer, very important, school prayer, which we unfortunately had to force into some schools. It should be very easy. You would think it would be very easy, but it wasn't, but we did it. I was the first and only president to convene a meeting of the United Nations to end religious persecution worldwide. First time they've ever done it. They were not thrilled, but that was okay. They did it. I signed an executive order to install faith advisors in every federal department and agency so that your voice and the Christian worldview would be heard in the halls of power in Washington and all over the world. It was a very big deal. Very proud of it. Wasn't that easy to do, you know that. 4 years, we totally transformed the federal bench, appointing nearly 300 federal judges to interpret the law and the Constitution as written, a record, 300. I withstood vicious attacks to pick and confirm 3 great Supreme Court justices. The great justices, great people. They're great people. Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. Nobody thought that was going to even be possible. We fought. This was not an easy thing to do. From my first day in office, I took historic action to protect the unborn, like nobody has ever done. Nobody has ever done it. Thank you. I reinstated and expanded the Mexico City policy. Ronald Reagan didn't do it. Nobody did it. Nobody did it like us, and was the first president ever to attend the March for Life rally in Washington, D.C. It was a great honor. And I was able to bring this issue for the first time in 54 years back to the states where everybody agrees on both sides. Everybody agrees that's where it should be, back in the states. It was so important. Everybody on both sides. And they are the radicals. Remember this. They try and paint a picture of disinformation, misinformation, almost the same, but actually not quite. But we won't go into that. But it's disinformation. And they try and paint a picture because they're willing to kill the unborn in the 6th and 7th and 8th and 9th months, and even after birth. I mean, even after birth. You remember the governor, that former governor of Virginia, that said the baby will be born and we will decide to kill the baby after birth. We will make a decision with the mother. This is the first time I heard that, but there is legislation in some states where you actually have the right to do that. So they're the radicals. You're not the radicals. We're not the radicals. They're the radicals. And you have to say that. Politicians have to say that, because nobody believes that after a certain period of time, nobody believes that you should be doing this. It's like 97% agree. We also have to remember that we have to have people elected. So some things that you feel and you have to go with your heart, you have to stay with that. You have to stay with your heart, but you have to get elected. You have to get people elected. But what a difference a president makes. You saw that during my term. What a difference a president makes. So big, bigger than anything else. As I mentioned earlier, under crooked Joe Biden, pro-lifers are now being hunted down by the Biden regime as enemies of the state. Can you believe that? The same Biden DOJ that dropped charges against Antifa, where they kill people, where they destroy cities. Take a look at Portland. You can't even walk down the street. It's just, they don't even have storefronts anymore. They use 2x4s because if they put up a piece of glass to show their wares, it gets knocked out. Well, most of the stores are empty, so it doesn't matter. But take a look at what they did there. Take a look at what happened in Seattle, where they took over a big portion of the city. They literally took it. If I wasn't going to send in the troops, we were sending in the troops the next day. All of a sudden, they decided to leave. But the governor didn't want to do it. The governor didn't want to do it. And would have never done. They'd still be there if I didn't do what I did. You take a look at Minnesota, Minneapolis. You take a look at what they were doing with that. If I didn't send in the National Guard and the governor didn't want it, and if I didn't send it, you wouldn't have that city anymore. Remember the CNN announcer saying, "This is a nonviolent protest." And behind him, the entire city was burning to the ground. Do you remember this? This is nonviolent in every way. I don't see a problem. And he also got hit on the knee with something and he went down. And the city behind him was burning. I never saw anything like it. But they're fake news. What can I say? I think one of the terms, they say, you come up with good names. I said, maybe fake news was the best. They're fake news. You know, when I first started, fake news. When I first started, the press had a very high rating. People actually believe them. You know, you think you read something in the New York Times, it's true. It's usually the opposite. The Russia hoax, they kept it going. It was supposed to be a one-day deal. It was a way of explaining why Hillary Clinton lost election that a lot of people thought she was going to win. Most people, I guess, thought that. I didn't think it, because we'd go to rallies with 45,000 people, and she'd show up and they'd have 25 people show up. I said, it's true, why are we going to win? But we won that, and the news just went crazy. And it was supposed to be a one-day event, Russia, and let's get on to running the country. But that went on for 2.5 years. And then they had the Mueller report, and it came in, no collusion. But I could have told them that on day one. And they would have known that on day one. They should have known it, because they had the laptop from hell, so they should have known it. That was, you have to say, that was truly the laptop from hell, wasn't it? Miranda Devine wrote a great book on it, and she was very nice. She credited me. She said, I got the name from Donald Trump. I saw him calling it the laptop from hell, and she named her book The Laptop from Hell. It was very, very successful. I didn't get anything out of it, though, Miranda. But it was a good book. It was. Can you imagine if they didn't? Can you imagine if he would have gone and picked up the laptop? David, it would have been a whole different country out there for them. But that is, and what they have is peanuts compared to what's on that thing. If that were from the other side, if that were a Republican instead of them, the things that are on that are unbelievable, unexplainable. The same Biden DOJ that dropped charges against Antifa has rounded up 6 pro-life activists right here in Tennessee, arresting them for a peaceful protest outside a clinic where they prayed, sang hymns, and were removed with great force. Last month, those protesters were convicted on outrageous charges and are now facing up to 11 years in prison. This is a communist state, just so you understand. This is the beginning of a communist state, whether it's me or any one of another 1,000 things that are going on. This is the only way they're going to be able to stay in office, because they're running a regime that's so incompetent. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Everything they do, high interest rates, the open borders. I don't think there's ever been anything so egregious that we've seen as these open borders, where these millions of people are allowed to just come into our country and invade this country. You saw that mountain? We built the wall, all of these hundreds of miles of wall. We ended it at that mountain. They said, nobody can go over that mountain. And we put it right into that wall. We figured at least we had something done that was good. The people are pouring over. It's sort of known as Snake Mountain, State Kill, Snake. It's snake, a lot of snakes. I think they're rattlesnakes. Between the rattlesnakes and the rough terrain and the steepness, they said nobody's coming over. The people are coming over by the thousands. It's crazy, and we let them come over. We let them do it. Our country can withstand, no country can withstand what's happening to us. The cities are being inundated. They're being overrun. They're taking the parks from children. There are no more baseball fields, no more soccer fields, no more anything. It doesn't sound very serious. Soccer fields and baseball fields are very serious. Their way of life has changed, and they're being treated better than longtime American citizens, and they're being treated better than our soldiers, our veterans are being treated. They're staying in world-class hotels. The whole thing is crazy, what's happening in our country. Let's call these brave Americans what they really are, persecuted Christians. They're being persecuted. And let's call their imprisoned and imprisonment. They are being imprisoned by Joe Biden and his people, evil people. He's surrounded by very evil people. They are, I believe, just doing whatever they want to do. I don't believe they have any leadership at all. Joe Biden, because of his gross incompetence, is a threat to democracy, big threat to democracy. To reverse these monstrous abuses of power, the moment I win the election, I will appoint a special task force to rapidly review the cases of every political prisoner who has been unjustly victimized by the Biden regime.
Hear, hear.
Never again will the federal government be used to target religious believers. They are targeting religious believers. What they did to all of you, a lot of ground was lost by religion during COVID, during the China virus. Let's be more accurate. It's called the China virus. We want to be accurate, have to be accurate, or you'll get criticized. You'll get criticized by the fake news. But Americans of faith are not a threat to our country. Americans of faith are the soul of our country. They are. They're the soul of our country. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. I really do. It's crazy. I've got to have something a little bit different up there, but I do, because I'm being indicted for you. And never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom, because I will never let them take away your freedom. And I'm never going to let it happen. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in the way. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Not the easiest thing I've ever done. Building buildings was much easier. Remember, every communist regime throughout history has tried to stamp out the churches, just like every fascist regime has tried to co-opt them and control them. And in America, the radical left is trying to do both at the same time. There's never been anything like this. It's really dangerous, okay? It's really a bad thing. And you're going to leave this room and some will say, oh, I think it's an over-exaggeration. And some will say it's actually maybe not even up to what it should be as a statement. It's very dangerous out there. They're doing bad things. They want to tear down crosses where they can and cover them up with social justice flags, which nobody even knows what it means. Nobody knows. They don't know what it means. They want to take off the name George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson off schools and off monuments. Think of it. They take down statues like it's the most magnificent statues anyone's ever seen. And they knock them down like they were garbage. And so bad. But I see where the other day they wanted to take the name George Washington off a school. George Washington. When you lose George Washington, you've just about hit the bottom. That means everything comes off the names of buildings. Even the name Trump is going to be off the buildings. There won't be a Trump up there, I can guarantee you that. If Washington can't make it and Lincoln can't make it, I'm going to have a big problem having my name on buildings.
That's a good
But no
joke.
one will be touching the cross of Christ under the Trump administration. I swear to you, that will never happen. Never happen.
And that's an even better line. Well delivered. A joke, and then that's probably going to be one of the best
Thank you.
lines. of
Thank
the
you very
night.
much. We're not going to let that happen. When I return to the White House, I will once again aggressively defend religious liberty, just like I had for 4 years. You had no problems. But we're going to defend it in all of its forms. We will protect Christians in our schools, in our military, in our government, and in all of those airwaves that your people, that you, Hewitt, and Sebastian Gorka, and all of the rest of you, I see a lot of you out there that you do such a great job in talking about, and your broadcasts, and in Salem, what the job you do is great. I'm telling you, Salem has really done a fantastic job. I just want to thank you. You have courage. You have really courage, because I know it's not easy. Congratulations. and we will protect God in our public square, which they don't want us to do. I will never allow the big media or left-wing pressure groups to silence you, censor you, discriminate against you, or in any way tell you what you have to say. They want you to say what they want to have you say, and we're not going to let that happen. You're going to say as you want, and you're going to believe, and you're going to believe in God. You're going to believe in God because God is here and God is watching. God is watching. And God probably can't believe what he's seen. I think he's having a hard time with this one. He's trying to figure, well, maybe he isn't, but everyone else is, I can tell you. He probably understands it very well, better than anybody. There's enough filth on our airwaves. American families need a haven where our children can be taught our values, not have radical values forced upon them, the families and the children. We don't want that. Our children hear enough about pronouns. What is with pronouns? If you really study it and look at it, it's sick. It's sick. I will protect the content that is pro-God. We're going to protect pro-God context and content. To that end, at the request of the NRB, I will do my part to protect AM radio in our cars. You know, we like to listen to AM radio because you know what we're listening to. Millions of Americans value listening to Christian broadcasters, and you're under siege. I know what you're going through. And this happened. This is a phenomenon that's just really happened. While they're on the road, we support you, and we are supporting all of those believers and the people that believe in you. We're not going to abandon you, and we're not going to abandon those great people that do these incredible broadcasts. They're incredible people. They're brave people. They shouldn't have to be brave people. They're smart people. They shouldn't have to be brave people. They should be nothing brave about it, but they're brave people because of this crazy government that we're developing more and more. It's a fascist government. The Biden administration wants to do major harm to you. You cannot let people vote for these people. You cannot let people vote for the Democrats. They're really wanting to change our whole system of values. Upon taking office, I will create a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias. It's become a very big term, anti-Christian bias. Not believable that you have a term like that, is it? When you think about it, it's like, where did that come from? And it's a very recent phenomenon. Its mission will be to investigate all forms of illegal discrimination, harassment, and persecution against Christians in America. As president, I will once again appoint rock-solid conservative judges in the mold of Justices Antonin Scalia and the great Clarence Thomas, who's doing a phenomenal job. Strong. I will stand proudly with our friend and ally, the state of Israel. We will stand proudly with Israel. In our first term, I kept my promise, recognized Israel's eternal capital. That was a big thing. Everybody said, oh, wow. You know, every president, David Friedman, every president for decades was saying during their process of getting elected, during the process that we will name the capital, we will move to Jerusalem, we'll do all of these things. Never happened. And I understood why, because once I got in, the pressure that was put on me by other countries was extraordinary. And I've told the story when I was going to move our embassy to Jerusalem, therefore becomes the capital of Israel. I was getting calls by leaders of other countries, very powerful leaders, some leaders not so far away from Israel, frankly. And they'd say, what is it about? It's about Jerusalem, it's about the capital. And I said, this is tough. I'm doing it, so there's no reason to go through these long calls. So I said, please tell them I'll call them back. This was a Wednesday. Please tell them I'll call them back on Monday. Okay, so I called back on Monday. So on, I believe, a Thursday or whatever, I announced we had a news conference. It was incredible. I announced that we were doing this. And it was tremendously, don't forget, they said the world was going to come to an end if this happened. Well, nothing happened. Everybody waited. They said this will be the bloodiest thing that's ever happened in history, and nothing happened. And I thought that was probably going to be the result, but nothing happened. But I did it, and Israel, therefore, became the capital. And it was a big thing. And on Monday, I called back the biggest leaders in the whole world, richest leaders, biggest leaders. I said, hi, what's up? They said, I called about Israel and you're naming the embassy, putting it into Jerusalem. And it's too late, isn't it? I said, yeah, I did. I wish I spoke to you earlier. David was there, right? That was a little easier than getting into arguments. I also recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. That was a big one. Probably, not that we did it for dollars, but probably worth trillions of dollars. As a real estate professional, I will tell you that was a big deal. And they were negotiating that out for 62 years. Every year planes would fly in, fly out, fly in, fly out. They'd have a meeting every year for many, many years, like over 60 years, I think. I called David Friedman into my office. I said, David, explain the Golan Heights to me, please, in 5 minutes or less. Now, this has been going on for 68 years or something. The planes would come in that had these big summits, they'd leave, nothing would happen. And he did. He explained it in less than 5 minutes. And I said, let's do it. And I just did it. And it's a big deal. But the biggest thing I did, in my opinion, the biggest thing was I withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal that Israel never wanted. Now, the problem is that the Biden administration did nothing. We could have made any deal we wanted. That deal was done. Iran was broke, totally broke. They had no money because I said anybody buying oil from Iran is not doing any business in the United States, right? And China stopped. They all stopped. They were doing no business. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for anything. They were totally broke. And we could have made any deal we wanted. No more nuclear weapons. You cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. And we were all set to do it. When the election ended and you saw, the result, it'll go down as a tragedy in our country, in my opinion. One of the great tragedies, and everyone knows it was all rigged and screwed up. A horrible thing happened. Anytime you have mail-in voting, too, you're going to have a crooked election. Remember that. Mail-in voting. Even Jimmy Carter, with his commission, said you can't have mail-in voting. France gave it up. France had an election recently, 36 million votes, paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, very simple. The election ended. You had a winner, you had a loser. And but anytime you have mail-in voting, you're going to have problems. Many countries have just given it up. It can't possibly work. But with the historic Abraham Accords, we did the Abraham Accords. It's one of the greatest things ever done for peace in the Middle East. But the Biden administration didn't take advantage of it, and they didn't take advantage of the weakness at that time of Iran. So when I got out, Iran went about selling oil at levels they've never hit before. China went back to buying. India went back to buying, they all went back to buying, everybody was buying. And now Iran has $235 billion. They made it over the last 3 years, $235 billion. Iran is a very rich country right now. And what a shame. It was a great time. We could have negotiated any deal. We don't want to hurt anybody, but we just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, because when they have a nuclear weapon, very bad things are going to happen. And they're very close to having that now. That would have been, had the election not been rigged, we would have had a deal with Iran within 1 week after that election. 1 week, they were dying to make a deal because they were hurting. And it would have been a great deal for the world. It would have been a good deal for them. I want everybody to be happy. They just can't have a nuclear weapon. So it was one of those things. But the other is that, again, Ukraine we wouldn't have been. I just looked at some reports that just came out on Ukraine. The death there and destruction is just unbelievable. And Israel would have never been attacked. All of these things, none of them would have happened. And you wouldn't have had inflation because it was caused by the price of oil. It was caused by the price of energy, and everything went up and is out of control. Now everything is hurting. Everything is hurting. And by the way, the numbers on inflation are so massive over a 3-year period. I think the real number is probably 38%, that no matter how much you made, you're losing a lot of money. You're way behind the 8 ball. I also cut off funding for the United Nations organizations that were funneling billions of taxpayer dollars to Hamas, yet Joe Biden gave it back. Close to $1 billion. He gave them $1 billion back. I also ended, as you remember, Nord Stream 2, the Russian pipeline. And then they say, oh, I like Russia, I'm so friendly. This is the biggest thing they ever did. I ended it. Think of it. The biggest thing, the biggest deal, the most profitable deal, the greatest deal they've ever done. I ended it. It was dead. And Biden came in and he approved it right away. But he killed the Keystone pipeline. He killed our pipeline. He let Russia build their pipeline to Germany and all over Europe. And then they say, well, Trump was very friendly with Putin. Putin said, man, if you're a friend, I'd hate like hell to see you as an enemy. I'd like to ask a man who's with us tonight, and he's been with me the entire way, Ambassador David Friedman, just come up and say a few words and give us a little of that wisdom, please. Thank you.
This brings back great memories, really great memories. Mr. President, I just want to say a couple of things that I think everybody here thinks is obvious, but we need to say it anyway. The first, you were the greatest friend that Israel ever had in the Oval Office. By far. By far. The second thing is that the tragedy that is now befalling the state of Israel, and it breaks my heart, and I work on this every day, and I go back and forth. I'm wearing this is to commemorate the hostages, still 130 hostages that are being held in the worst conditions. As you said, this wouldn't have happened had we still been in power, had you still been in power, had I still been working for you, for obvious reasons, because the money that now Iran is using to sell oil, the money that you cut off to the Palestinians that they now have, the money you cut off to the United Nations that they still have, all of this was the lubricant that enabled Hamas to conduct their horrible attacks in Hezbollah too. It took a lot of money. You cut it all off, and President Biden brought it all back. And so we really wish you never left office, because we're feeling the pain right now because of that. And the last thing I'll just say is, when you moved the embassy to Jerusalem, and we were there together in the Situation Room, and you got pushback from other countries, but you also got pushback from some of your own people. And I was there with you, and I remember what you said. You said, I promised I'm going to do this, and this is the right thing. And the signal that you sent to the world, not just to those people in that room, but to the whole world, is that the United States will stand with its allies, and the United States will not flinch from the threats of rogue nations. And that message, as much as it elated me and it elated everybody else in this room, that message resonated. It resonated in North Korea, and resonated in Iran, it resonated in Russia. And when the history books are written, I believe that is one of the reasons why under your administration, there were no new wars. We owe you a great gratitude that we cannot repay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. You did a great job. During the debate, Hillary Clinton said, he will lead us into war. He will look at the attitude. Look at this guy. He's going to lead us into war. I said, no, my attitude will keep us out of war. We defeated ISIS 100% and then pulled everyone out. And we were, I guess they say, the first one in 72 years or something like that. I'll tell you just a quick story about Jerusalem. So a friend of mine, very rich guy in New York, has a beautiful office in a big building. And across from the elevator, he has beautiful stone. And every time I see him, he tells me about the stone, how beautiful it is. I get tired of it, actually. Look how beautiful. And he goes, it's Jerusalem stone. Jerusalem comes out of Jerusalem. He's Jewish. It comes out of Jerusalem. Look at it. It's so beautiful, isn't it? I said, yeah, for the 12th time, I said, yeah, it's beautiful. Big deal. So what happened is when I approved the deal, and now we're all set with the deal was done. It was done and it went. Nobody was fighting and there was no bloodshed, no nothing. But I said, let's build the embassy because this embassy will never get built the way government works. So a general came in with a $2 billion form for me to sign. That was what they were going to build on. They were going to spend $2 billion to build an embassy. $2 billion to build. I think of it as a 1 or 2 story building. How do you do that? I'm in the real estate business. You don't spend that kind of money. But they were going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on a lousy site, bad location. We like good locations. And I sent David. I said, David, go check it out because they want me to sign. I told the general I didn't want to sign $2 billion. I didn't want to be foolish. And I said, go see if we have any buildings. The United States has been around a long time. Usually we have the best site, or you could look at the post office site in Washington, D.C. Always get a post office because that's always the first thing the federal government, they always have the best location. But I said, see if we have a good site in our inventory of sites. And lo and behold, 2 days later, David Friedman calls me back. He said, sir, we have a great site. It's much better than the site that we're talking about, and we own it. I said, does it have a building on it? Yeah, it does. And it's set back. There are certain rules. They want it set back, I guess, for obvious reasons, called explosions on a sidewalk. The building is set back. It's up high. It has beautiful views. Everything is perfect. And we could probably use the frame, use the structure, save a lot of money and a lot of time. So this new building would have probably never been built. It would be built for years and years, decades probably. Would have spent billions of dollars and they would have had nothing. I said, let's get it built. So he comes back, he sends me some pictures. I say, listen, go out and let's see what we can do. And you have to do me a favor. You're in Jerusalem. See if you can make a good deal on Jerusalem stone. Because a friend of mine tells me it's so expensive and so impossible to get. So David calls me back about 5 days later. He said, sir, I think we can do the building. I said, how much, David? About $490,000. I said, you gotta be kidding. I said, does that include Jerusalem stone? He said, the whole place is Jerusalem stone. We have so much Jerusalem stone in Jerusalem, we could get it cheaper than brick. So, right? It's a beautiful building. I don't think they ever have to do anything with it. I think it's beautiful. They'll probably someday knock it down and spend $3 billion to build a building that's terrible, but it's a beautiful building. So we not only named the site and did the capital of Israel and all of those things that all other presidents failed, many presidents, they all campaigned on it and then they never had the guts. I now realize why though, because of the pressure from other countries. But we got it built and we got it built in about 5 months. And it opened and we were to great fanfare. And it's such a beautiful building. It really is. And it's just about all in Jerusalem stone. They even sent me a piece of Jerusalem stone with a dedication, which I proudly have in my office. But under my leadership, we will restore peace through strength before I even arrive at the Oval Office. Shortly after it's going to be we win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. We'll have it totally settled. We're going to get it settled. We're going to get it settled. People are dying. Too many people are dying. You saw that evening when I was interviewed on CNN 6-7 months ago by a person that didn't like me particularly. I thought they were doing it because they wanted to come a little bit more to the center and try and get some ratings because they're dying in the ratings. Whoops, there goes CNN. There goes the light. The red light just went off. I wonder what that means. But we all know what that means. So we all know what that means. But it was a war. All of these wars would have never happened. None of it would have happened. If I was president, none of it would have happened. As the Bible says, blessed are the peacemakers, right? Blessed are the peacemakers. And I promise, I will be your peacemaker in more ways than what you think. I will be your peacemaker, and I will be the only president that will be able to say this and say it with great conviction. I will prevent World War III. We're very close to World War III, and this will be a war like no other. They went to Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who's the Prime Minister of Hungary. He's a very tough man. He's a strong man. He's a friend of mine, a strong man. I actually endorsed him. Can you believe it? I said, why do you need an endorsement? You're a very popular guy. He said, I'd like to have it anyway. And he won by a record astounding number. He's a great guy. He's a strong guy, loves his country. And they were interviewing him a few weeks ago, and they asked him, what's going on with the world? What are we doing? Everything's blowing up. The Middle East. You look at Israel, and you look at Ukraine, and you look at possibly China and the threats from North Korea. Everything is a disaster. What do we do? He said, it's a very simple thing. Elect Donald Trump president of the United States, and it's all going to go away. He was the only person that people listened to. He said it actually stronger than that, but I don't want to say it. He said everybody was afraid of Trump. I don't know if they were afraid or not. I don't care if they were afraid or not, but we wouldn't be having any of these things that are happening right now. None of them. Millions of people would be alive if you added all up. Both sides. I'm talking about both sides. People are from both sides, not just from our side. Millions of people would be alive right now if everything happened differently on that horrible election period. We no longer have election day. We used to have election day. Now we have election period. Some of them last for 45 days. And what they do during those 45 days is very bad. A lot of bad things happen. I will stop the disaster known as Bidenomics, and we will return to Meganomics, putting America first at all times.
That's a good line.
We will stop Biden's inflation nightmare. I will cut your taxes and regulations, and we will drill, baby, drill. We have more than anybody. Remember that. More than anybody. Liquid gold, I call it. On day one, I will seal the border and stop the invasion of our country. It's an invasion, just like a military invasion. 3 years ago, we had the most secure border in U.S. history, and now we have the worst border in the history of the world. There's never been a border so bad as this or so dangerous. As soon as I take the oath of office, I will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, because we have no choice. We have no choice. I will also use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries, starting immediately. We will bring back law and order in our country. I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical, out-of-control prosecutor in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. What they're doing is so illegal. I am also going to indemnify all police and police officers, all law enforcement officials throughout the United States, to protect them from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong actions on crime. They want to take their pensions, they want to take their job, they want to take their family, they want to destroy their lives because they want to protect us. And we're going to indemnify those people. We're going to indemnify the law enforcement officers that can clean up and straighten out all of the crime that's going on. We have crime at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Our inner cities are a disaster. We're going to rebuild our cities into beacons of hope, safety, and beauty, better than they've ever been before. We'll work with Democrats. They're all run by the Democrats, all of these horrible places that have become so horrible, once beautiful, but have become so unsafe. And we will take over the terribly run capital of our nation in Washington, D.C., and clean it up, renovate it, and rebuild our capital city so that it no longer is a nightmare of murder and crime, but rather it will become the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world. We're going to make it the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world. It once probably was, but we will make it definitely. But we're going to clean up the crime. People go from Tennessee to Washington, D.C., and they end up getting killed. They end up getting shot, mugged. Terrible things happen. And Can't be that way. Can you imagine foreign leaders coming in from other lands? They hear all about Washington, the United States, and they're driving in dirty roads, potholes all over the place, medians that are falling down into the road, and crime and graffiti all over those beautiful marble columns, swastikas. Can you imagine what they must think about our country? And I worked hard on that. You know, anytime I drive, when I saw like one or two tents starting to form, I said, go out there immediately and take down those tents, because it was easy when you have 2 or 3 or 4. But now you take a look at what's happened. It looks like Tent City. Some of our most beautiful parks, what they've done to our country is not believable. It's so sad to see. Another top priority will be to take back our education system from the communists and the freaks that are destroying it. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children. Thank you. I will support a policy of universal school choice, allowing parents to choose the public, private, charter, or religious school that best suits their children. And I will support America's homeschool families, including allowing 529 education savings accounts to be used for homeschooling expenses up to $10,000 a year per child, completely tax-free. So you can do that if you like it. And to me, very importantly, I will close the Federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the states where it belongs and where they can individualize education and do it with love of parents, love of everybody, but most importantly, the love and respect of their student. Move it back. You know, we're last on every list. We're first on the list of the cost of education per student. We spend more per student by far than any other country. But we're last in terms of results. The results are horrible. We're going to move it back to the states. I mean, I know states that will do a phenomenal job. Most of them, some I don't think will do really that good of a job. Usually if they're run badly, the school's not going to be so great. But many of these states will bring back world-class education in terms of schooling, and they're going to do that. We're going to move it back. We're going to get it out of Washington. We're going to move it back. We're going to end the so-called Department of Education. We might have one desk, one person, just to make sure everyone's speaking English. Got to have a little bit of regulation, you know. Let's try and keep it so that you can only that we're going to focus on some English, but after that, you can go ahead and do what you're going to do, but you can't do worse. You know, we're at the bottom of every list. Every single list, we're at the bottom, and yet we spend more per pupil. So we're going to move it back to the states. I will also take historic action to defeat the toxic poison of gender ideology and restore the timeless truth that God created 2 genders, male and female. So crazy. And something that I am always amazed that I have to say, I will keep men out of women's sports. Can you imagine? And I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. No more, no more. What they're doing is crazy. These are some of the things that we must do, but things that are very important to this particular audience. We have to do a lot of other things, but this particular audience wants to know how we feel about that. For those of you who live in Tennessee, I love this state. You know, we won this state by numbers that nobody's ever won. I love Tennessee. The primary is Tuesday, March 5th, less than 2 weeks from now. So get out there and vote. And I have a feeling you're going to vote for a guy named Trump, I think. So get out there and vote. And it's important to do it. Not that we have a race, because we really essentially don't have a race. Nikki is not a race. But we have to send a message to these radical left lunatics that on November 5th, we're coming. We're coming in numbers that they've never seen before. Because when the numbers are that way, and I think they have a chance of being that way, you can only cheat so much. You can only cheat so much. So we have to really we have to let the world know that we're coming. We're going to come in big numbers. And on November 5th, we're going to get rid of a man who is the worst president in the history of our country, I think by far. So get out and vote on the 5th. You got to get out and vote. Very, very near. We get out and send that message. But the big one is in November, but you got to send the message right now. So even though it's not much of a election per se, you got to get out there and you have to send that big, beautiful message that we're coming. For generations, America's religious broadcasters have helped the people of this country live up to the words of our glorious motto, "In God we trust." We will never change that motto. You know, there are many, many people that want to change that model. That model will never change. That motto will never change. It's a magnificent motto, and we've had it, and we're not going to let people talk about that. Will never change. This great organization has helped spread the word of God, the love of Christ, the stories of the Holy Bible, and the voices of famed evangelical people and evangelists like the late, great Pat Robertson, who was a great gentleman. Got to know him very well. Great evangelist. And of course, Billy Graham. How good was Billy Graham, right? I remember my father took me to Yankee Stadium and Billy Graham was preaching and it was amazing. I was very young. My father loved Billy Graham. And that place was packed, bigger than any World Series game, bigger than anything anybody's ever seen, and it was packed. And we would love to bring it back to those days, Jack, right? We'd love to bring it back to those days. Amazing. Our country would greatly benefit by it. Your efforts have inspired millions and millions to live their values and put faith at the center of their lives, so importantly. And in turn, these legions of listeners, citizens, soldiers, ministers, and everyday American believers not only help defeat fascism and communism, they help to build America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. But now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, its willpower, and its strength. We are a nation that has lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. We can't allow it to continue. 3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. With your prayers, your voice, and your vote, we will reclaim our government from these horrible tyrants. We will remove the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will defeat crooked Joe Biden. We will restore faith and family to the center of American life, and we will restore power to the people. Ladies and gentlemen, with your help and God's grace, the great revival of America begins on November 5th, 2024. It's a great revival. So again, I want to thank you, and I want to thank the National Religious Broadcasters. I cannot state strongly enough what an incredible job you do. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and there you go. That is Donald Trump's remarks at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention out of Tennessee. It has been a very, very long live stream. And, you know, for everybody, the 17 of you that's over on YouTube, the 15 or so of you that's over on Rumble, God bless you guys. You are amazing. I realize that some people had to dip out. Yeah, I made it. That's probably the best way to say I made it. Oh, my Lord. Again, I want to apologize to everybody. I did not anticipate that this stream was going to go as long as it did. But then again, I should also start remembering Trump time is Trump time. And then again, there could have been any number of things that delayed him getting there as late as he did, but it was still a good speech. Gypsy was commenting, over on the YouTube side that even though it's a very late hour, Trump is doing remarkably well given the night. And I said, there's no way Joe Biden could do this. There is no way he could do it. But I don't want to hold you guys any longer than necessary because, Lord bless it, it's almost midnight. But I want to thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to be back this coming Saturday morning for Front Porch Brunch at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And we will be doing our normal coverage of the news items and also covering Trump's speech at CPAC. So spread the word around about that. Also, we'll be doing 6:30. Doing 6:30 Saturday night covering the South Carolina primary. So please plan on both of those if you have the chance. If you've got our plans already, I understand. But if you're not going to be able to be there, spread the word. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and sign it off. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for being here as long as you did. And I definitely look like a troll at first because I play hard. But if you give me a chance, you'll find I support the Constitution more than people expect. Fair enough, Marshflower. So welcome to this odd little family. Dysfunctional, some people may call us, but we're definitely family. So anyway, oh, bless your guys' hearts. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Let's let everybody go to bed. And Granny, I see your comment over on Rumble. Yeah, I know you're super. I'm super too. Anyway, you guys have a great night. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Good night, everybody.